NewGenGamers.com.
The games of Super Nintendo. No one else creates this kind of experience, because no one else creates these kinds of games. Now you're playing with power, superpower.
Welcome to another one of our NewGenGamers.com documentaries. This is Console Wars of the Past Part 3, where we're covering the 16-bit Super Nintendo / Sega Genesis era. Here, this is the Super Nintendo. As you'll see, this is the basic square design. You have your cartridge port here. There's a cartridge. Power. Now these slide up. And the reset button, which just kind of pops up. And the eject button, which pops your cartridges out kind of nicely.
If you want to show where it pops up at, or just show down in here.
Oh, okay.
You can see that little thing kicks up, and
Yeah, there's a little flipper in there that does it.
the magic of the system. The back's pretty basic.
Yeah, you got your multi-out, which Nintendo retained up to the Wii. That the GameCube was the last console to support that
Yeah,
multi-out.
The same wire could be used on the Super Nintendo, GameCube,
And N64.
and N64. The RF out, which could also be used on the Nintendo Entertainment System, and the AC out, which ours is broken, but still works, and it only works on the Super NES.
Now, was there a expansion spot on this?
There certainly was, Ray. This extension slot here was how the BS to television would connect, and potentially the Sony PlayStation.
It's the Super Nintendo CD.
Yeah.
Sony PlayStation.
Yeah, this is where the proposed item, I believe that's how it was going to work, was it would connect through this. I know that the television used this.
Just
Or
plug right
Satellaview.
through the extension port and it had a direct feed into the console. Unlike the Sega one, which was just a bloody mess trying to hook that thing up.
Yeah. Yeah, Nintendo did that with all their consoles. They'd have ports on the bottom of them ready to connect other hardware in. Not much of it came to the United States, but Japan got things like the Famicom Disk System, the 64DD, the BS Satellaview, as I said there.
We at least got the Game Boy player.
Yeah, we got the
There was
Game
one
Boy
for
player.
GameCube.
Yeah, so that was pretty cool.
Now, here's the Super Nintendo controller. This is a third-party ASCII pad, but it's got the little switches and everything on it. But it works really well.
This is one of the better, well, probably the best third-party Super Nintendo controllers I've ever seen. In design and feel, it's exactly like the Nintendo brand one. The only difference, of course, being the switches for the turbo and full automatic. You can put it in the middle for turbo, automatic, off, slow-mo. But this is generally the Super Nintendo design. The 4 face buttons, start, select, directional pad, and your triggers on top. Nice design, solid.
Yeah, truthfully, when I've played with that
Indestructible.
before, it feels a lot like the Super Nintendo controller. It's not like a lot of third-party pads where it
No.
feels weird.
This one's very tight. It feels genuine. I believe it was officially licensed. I'm not positive on that.
Okay.
But definitely a great controller if you're ever looking for a third-party one.
Now, we've got a ton of games here.
We've got games.
Here's Super Mario All-Stars, Kirby's Avalanche, Mega Man X, Donkey Kong Country 2, Diddy's Conquest, Killer Instinct, Aladdin, and over here we have SimCity, Earthworm Jim, Primal Rage, NBA Jam, X-Men Mutant Apocalypse, Turtles 4,
Now,
Turtles in Time.
I'd like to mention for this one, this is the only one in the collection we'll be playing today that has the original style SNES cartridge slot, and I'm not sure quite what the idea is, but both kind of lock into the system about the same, but you know, there really isn't a difference as far as a user goes. But I know one problem is the game Genie that was originally released for this system was made for this one and is supposed to lock in, but won't lock in as well with this one. And I'm not sure what the idea behind the change in the design was. So
It just looks better.
I guess Star Fox also has that. So you see, after a while they got rid of that. There was also some cartridges were made in Mexico, and you can tell these ones, none of these ones are.
Okay.
You can tell them just by looking at them because the labels won't be quite as shiny, and they'll be made of kind of a papery material more than these ones. And the cartridges themselves just feel very like, it's just, you can tell it's cheaper plastic. It's a little like stiffer, and they just don't quite feel the same. And it was some of the crappier third-party stuff was released on these cartridges, like Game Tech stuff, and you know, some other stuff. So those are some of the variances in the cartridges that you might encounter.
Now we also have Super Metroid and Star Fox.
Yes.
Now the FX chip, notice that little FX logo, that was a major part. You'll notice the extra pieces here. Let me pull up Super Metroid here.
It does not have these extra pieces. Now in the video, we're recording this after we actually recorded the game footage. I incorrectly said that Donkey Kong Country 2 had a special chip. It does not, but it is a lot of information packed on this cartridge. And also Super Metroid was a massive game, but again, they look the same. Only certain games
Had
would
those
support
extra
this,
chips. We may have another one here. I thought I saw two of them. Maybe I was wrong. But here's another interesting aspect of it.
Well, here's
The
one.
Super Game Boy. Oh,
Here's one here. I'm not sure. I don't think...
Third Tracks FX.
Yeah, I'm not sure if this is using Nintendo's FX chip. I think this is using a chip they made, but it does the same thing. And as we spoke in the commentary, the later Mega Man X titles would also have a chip that Capcom made. It would be similar.
Alright, well, I say this is Ray and Ron, and this has been Console Wars of the Past.
We'll be joined by Ducky and Jeremy during our commentary of these games. And this is not all of the greatest games on the Super Nintendo, but this is a wide selection here of some of the great games that you might find in your collection, you know, so check it out.
And remember, if you don't remember your history, you're doomed to repeat it. Welcome everybody to New Gen Gamers Console Wars of the Past Part 3. Today we are doing the Super NES era, and we've decided to start off with one of the deepest games for the Super NES, Super Metroid.
Also one of the biggest, most graphically intensive. This one really pushed the game to its extreme limits.
And this is a very dramatic part in the game that we're showing off here. This is towards the end of the game, and this is fighting the baby Metroid that you saved from Metroid 2, which you cannot defeat him, as you'll be able to tell.
Oh no!
This is so dramatic, isn't it?
He's gonna kill you.
Basically. Or will he? Oh, snap.
Ah.
Now, when this happened in the game, this was very... I mean, once you're into this game so far, this impacts you like you would not believe. As you can tell from the Metroid series has always been atmospheric and creepy in a lot of senses.
Definitely creepy.
Oh yeah, and I like this part of the game too because you got enemies from the first game who are obviously, you know, deteriorating, festering away, and Torian here, which is the last part of the game.
So this is where you actually were in the original game, as Samus.
Yeah.
So that's a really cool throwback and really cool way to bring the series up to date. You know, this was one that fans had requested, and it took them a while to get done.
And so much to be said. I mean, you could say the same about the Metroid Prime
Absolutely.
for the GameCube, because it skipped an entire generation of the 64.
Well, this has always been kind of a dark horse series for Nintendo. It's not as popular as their other series, but every game is stupendous, and I think a lot of it, as we've discussed before, had to do with the Japanese not digging it.
And the
Yeah.
creator, who created it, was it
Gunpei Yokoi, creator of the Game Boy and creator of pretty much all of Nintendo's hardware, and kind of bastard child of Nintendo, it seems. He didn't get regarded a lot of times the way he should have, and so this, I'm not sure if this was his direct game design, but the original Metroid was for sure.
Now, with this game, they did a lot with expanding the story. Like, the original Metroid didn't have much for story. It had that little opening at the beginning. But this one really kind of delved you into the universe.
And without really saying much in words, I mean, the beginning is the opening monologue is pretty much the only thing that had words to it. The rest is gameplay based, but it's so in depth that you feel like you're playing along, you are the character, and that's where the story comes from. Now you'll see that the final boss is Mother Brain yet again, because you're playing on the same planet as the first game is based. And there she is.
I always thought the
this is
Mother
the
Brain
final
was
boss.
an interesting enemy.
I always thought it was funny because in the cartoon series, Captain and the Game Master, the Mother Brain was the enemy.
Yes, let's
Yeah.
throw that out. Captain N
And
and the Game Master. Or the Game Master. That was it was a terrible cartoon, but if you were a child that loved Nintendo games, it was a great cartoon.
Absolutely.
Well, so wasn't The Legend of Zelda. You remember that cartoon was absolutely horrid, but watching it, you'd look forward to it every Friday.
When I was 6 years old, man, I would get up early on Friday for that reason.
I hope no one got a seizure from that. That was intense.
Yeah.
That was pretty interesting.
Now look at this creepy brain sitting here.
Whoop, don't touch it.
Something's happening. Now this was a surprise to me, having played through the first game many times, when the Mother Brain suddenly came to life as this T-Rex dragon monster that should have been in Jurassic Park. Maybe it'll be in Jurassic Park 4, I don't know.
Now, something I want to mention here is the sheer size of Mother Brain. Super Nintendo really introduced the oversized boss.
Yeah.
I agree.
Yeah, there was a lot of scaling and rotating features that the Super NES could do that previous consoles couldn't do, and it really brought home that arcade feel. And
just the music of this, it feels very dramatic.
yes, this of course using the SPC 700 sound chip that Sony designed and sold to Nintendo, which ties a lot in with the Super Nintendo's lore, and we'll get into. And this game really showed off basically every hardware bell and whistle that the Super NES had.
Here we go.
Did it have Mode 7 in it?
This game, I don't believe it did, actually.
This was the only one of the few that, the only thing it didn't show off was Mode 7, but we'll get more into that when we get to Star Fox, because that was one that really was the graphical
And this game,
3D powerhouse for
it
the
really
system.
pushes it even without Mode 7, as you can tell. Like this part right here, watch this.
Oh, sprite! This is one of the best sprite-based games.
Oh, man.
Yeah, this was a 32, I don't know what they called it, M-bit cartridge.
Megabyte.
Yeah, they're not. It's not the same as megabytes. They add it up differently. It's a different calculation. But as far as size for a Super NES game, I believe this was the largest.
Ah.
Okay, now tell us what's happening here, Doc.
This is part of the storyline where you save this baby Metroid in the second game. It follows you. Now they're testing it. The Space Pirates are testing it. It finds you and it feels that it's your mother, I believe. And that's what I gather from the game as it progressed. And it has came in to save me at the last moment. Now this goes with the storytelling aspect, you know. This was unexpected, and it's really a cool twist. Now it's sucking all the energy out of Mother Brain, as you can tell, and it'll come over and give it to me, which is a really cool twist, like I said before. And it's just, I don't know, it's fun. And you'll see that I get the ultimate gun here after it's done filling me back up with energy. As you can see, the Mother Brain's coming back to life. And hopefully I can defeat this giant creature.
So, as we said, this wasn't as big in Japan, and I'm not quite sure why. They love games like this. It's a little bit darker than a lot of their stuff, perhaps, but still,
People, they would love the sci-fi aspect,
Yeah.
I would think.
Yeah, I'm not quite sure why this never took off like it did in America.
Well, speaking of the Metroid series, just in general, it's based mainly off of the Alien movie that Ridley Scott and James Cameron did in the early
Yeah.
80s. And they
Wow.
took that as a starting place. That's why the hero is a female.
Yeah, and that's really interesting and really cool that they brought that to a video game. And of course, in the original Metroid, that was kind of the big
hidden
revelation
secret.
at the end of the game was that she was a female. I mean, females can't save the world. What?
Yeah, dear Lord.
You know, at the
Let's
time
not
that
get
was
sexist. You know, but no, that is what it was.
Fro-
It was like,
from sexist Japan. That was very interesting.
mhm.
And so,
That is a badass gun, I'll have to
Oh,
admit.
and they really stuck by that. Even with something like Super Smash Brothers Brawl, which just came out, Samus is still in it, and you can get the Zero Suit Samus, which is just her.
Now, the other thing I like about the Metroid series is the feeling of claustrophobic. You're in a small area, you're underground for the most part, and it just does feel so claustrophobic. Now, this one,
Yeah, it does.
the
It's
third
very
game in the
atmospheric.
series really gave it a little bit more scale as you're on the top of the planet whenever things go down.
Oh, and the
Oh.
infamous escape.
Yes, the escape, which is a trademark of the Metroid series. A
Yeah.
wonderful trademark.
Yeah, now this is awesome because you're, trying to beat the game here, but it's not simply beat the boss and you're done, watch the end credits. You've still got to do
You gotta get
something.
away.
You've got to, you got to keep moving here. And
And this
again, that feeling of claustrophobia, of impending doom.
And they took it
you
even
know-
further in games after this. Metroid Zero Mission. Now, see, this is a labyrinth, and I gotta find the right way out. But in Metroid Zero Mission, after you beat Mother Brain in that game, you still have to play through an entire level without your suit, where the Zero Suit comes from. But the escapes became more intense. Here's a wonderful thing.
Oh, yeah.
What is that called whenever you jump on the side?
The spider... Is it the spider wall? Or the spider...
I can't remember.
No, that was the spider ball from Prime. What am I thinking here?
Let's see if we can escape. We might die in this.
You might want to go back that way and try it. Oh, no, there you go.
And that's another great thing about Metroid, it's a labyrinth. Now, you won't see the backtracking in this video, but in the game itself, you have to do so much backtracking through different parts of the level. Where am I going?
There was an up there.
Was
Try
it?
shooting up. Can you go through that?
Yeah,
No. Oh, well. Go around.
I thought it was a really interesting design because basically you have the whole world map
go.
and you can explore each area, but you do have to come back to them as you gain new abilities.
And they did that excellent with the GameCube version of Metroid Prime. You know, the backtracking in that game is just wonderful and creepy because there's portions of the game you really don't want to play again because they're really dissettling.
Uh-oh.
Uh-oh.
It seemed to me that the Castlevania games for
The PlayStation, yeah. They
the
kept
PlayStation and Game Boy Advance kind of followed the Metroid model.
almost
Yeah.
they're actually to the point where they're known as Metroidvania games now. If you have an open-ended game where you have to do a lot of backtracking because it's simply
I have not heard that term.
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
called Metroidvania.
That's true.
So,
So,
to make
yeah,
that
that's-
or the comparison is correct because a lot of games that do that are known as games or based in that genre now. This is just difficult.
Yeah, I think
Oh my
I always
God.
think they're a lot of fun,
Wow, I'm just having one heck of a time.
and
This one's a little
it's
tough.
definitely a way to make a level playable again and
Go
make
that
it
way.
interesting.
Is anyone else feeling how intense this is right
This
now?
is
Yeah,
impending
this is-
space doom.
And the fact that you only got 43 seconds.
I don't
40.
think I'm gonna make it.
Oh, you're close.
I think you can make it.
You can
Come
make it. You
on.
can do it. Come on, Duck.
I think that's it for it.
Is that the end of it?
Oh, God.
Oh, keep going, keep going. Oh, wow, it looks like the original Metroid.
It is.
That's funny. I like that throwback there.
Dun, 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 dun. Oh, man. Now the level will start twisting and turning. Now, once again, this wasn't using Mode 7. Well, it might have been using Mode 7, but it wasn't using the FX chip.
Right.
Wow.
So it's not-
We are in so much trouble.
Oh.
I
Oh.
don't think it's gonna happen, ladies and gentlemen. I think I'm out of time. And I've never actually seen this explode, so this should be entertaining.
Game over.
Oh well. Find the Metroid larva,
So-
try again.
There's the game over screen.
Well, good attempt, but
Thank you.
we
That-
almost got out.
That was
I don't know if I can call myself
That
a
was
Metroid fan.
intense.
That
Well,
was.
that was most of the ending of Super Metroid.
Welcome back to Console Wars of the Past Part 3, the Super Nintendo 16-bit era. Today we are playing one of the best fighting games for the console from Rareware.
Today we're playing a shitload of games.
Well, Killer Instinct is the one we're playing right now.
There you go.
So let's tear into this.
Now, Killer Instinct was released with a soundtrack at the same time that played the songs that were in the game. We picked the skeleton guy. He just rules. Spinal. Now, this was a game competing with Mortal Kombat at the time, and to the point where they have special moves such as, fireballs or spin flips or whatever. And they also had sort of a fatality thing where it didn't say fatality, but your screen went completely red, and you could perform a final attack. As you'll notice, there is blood, but it's probably not as gory as Mortal Kombat is. And this is an interesting thing, is you have to knock the character off the side of some of these levels, such as this one. That is a callback to both the Pit and I think Smash Brothers might have even used it in the idea of making their game. Nintendo did, or HAL Laboratories, because you have to knock the character off the side. Which is, see if we can get me off the side here, Ray, just because it'll be entertaining.
Now, I always liked the skeleton because he has the headband. I thought that was always really cool.
Yeah, the character design is definitely up there. Rare used the same 3D graphic engine they were using for Donkey Kong Country, which was something that people really enjoyed on the Super Nintendo.
Now, we'll talk about that real quick. That was through a partnership with Silicon Graphics Incorporated, who would design the N64's hardware to a degree and really help bring 3D graphics to the home consoles. And we see a little bit of nipple action there.
Yeah, I was enjoying that. Now, like I said before, this game was packaged with a soundtrack that had the different songs in the game with better sound quality. Some even had lyrics. This was mainly because the Super Nintendo sound chip wasn't as advanced as the Sega Genesis or the Sega CD at the time that had been released that was running excellent audio.
I don't know about that. I think the Super NES could play...
Their sound chip was good.
I think they could play more sounds. I think the Genesis had better actual audio, like human recorded audio, because it seemed like more Genesis games featured actual voices.
Mm-hmm.
Now, this is something, actually, that you guys are discussing this. We're going to hear a lot, because during that era...
The comparisons.
Yeah, because this is one of the tightest races ever.
Yeah, the comparisons between the Genesis and Super NES... I mean, they basically did the same thing, were the same type of machines, but they were so close that it was really hard to define a clear-cut winner, and you get in pointless debates as to which one is better at what. The Super NES could display more colors on screen, and you had the layering effects there, as you can see, like the stuff in the front of the screen. The Genesis.
What happened there?
We'll talk about the Genesis when we get to that one.
Now, what I like about this game is it's so fast-paced. As a fighter, it's excellent. I believe that you also have a combo system that, as you see the triple come up, that Mortal Kombat 3 really implicated too whenever it came out. But Killer Instinct is a very fast-paced game. A battle can last 30 seconds to a minute, and it just flies by.
And the next battle starts very quickly.
Exactly, and I always
they don't take you all the way out, and your power bar remains.
And
that's another interesting aesthetic.
And the selection of characters, as I mentioned before, there's a lot of different characters. You have Glacius here, or Glacier, whatever his name is. You have a fire version of him. You also have, like, another version. I mean, the character selection is just so intense as you see them scroll past. Each of them is unique and interesting looking, with different fighting abilities and different combos. The game is very intense whenever it comes down to combos, because you have so many different ones that you can pull off in a row. It's not a button masher, and you can do it that way, but it's more rewarding to learn all the different combos and moves that you could use.
Unfortunately, I'm busted.
During a time when there was about 80,000 fighting games on the market, this was one that definitely rose above.
Mm-hmm.
And it's kind of unfortunate because it was made for the N64 hardware. This was ported down to the Super NES, so it was a really powerful Super NES game, and a really graphically it looks great.
And which is
But
ironic because I feel the 64 title was very lackluster in a lot of
Yeah,
senses.
it was. It kind of got lost on the bigger consoles and in the arcades. Now, this was distributed by Williams in the arcades because during the early Rare Nintendo partnership, they teamed up with Williams to distribute these games in the arcades. So,
Well,
there it
was
is.
Killer Instinct.
That was Ray, as you can
Yeah,
see.
that was Ray.
Getting his ass kicked by Cinder, nonetheless.
Yeah.
And who else would put a fire under your ass so quickly, rather than a character named Cinder?
And I happen to be the ice guy. So.
That is true. So you could not expect to win.
No. All right, so we're going to move on here to an early Capcom title.
Okay. This is Mega Man X, one of the early great Super NES games.
Now let me talk a little bit about why they came out with Mega Man X. Mega Man series was more of a child-oriented, more kid-friendly in the sense that the characters are more cartoony. Capcom wanted to come up with a series that was more mature, as you'll see from the design of the character, the design of the levels. Now Mega Man X is a series that takes place, I can't remember, many years after the Mega Man series.
It's like 100 years of the future.
Yeah, and the character of Mega Man X, or just X as they call him, was created by Dr. Light. Can't remember the exact reason, even though I played through most of the games. I think it was just so that...
Impending Space Doom, I believe,
Yeah,
was the
we'll
cause.
go with Impending Space Doom.
And their other character named Zero, who's the main character, was created by Dr. Wiley, whatever you want to call him. The gameplay is more intense because, first of all, you have the X-Buster, which is a very nice advance. You also got Mega Man 4, but as you'll see, you can even advance it further. It was definitely needed. You can also dash and cling to the sides of walls. The bad guys are more advanced looking. They're not cartoony and kitty like a spring with eyeballs.
They're very robotic and very metallic. Like, these things look kind of mean.
And dangerous. I don't know if I mentioned this already. This is the first version or kind of alternate universe for the Mega Man series, which they've had many other ones since. Let me think off the top. The Mega Man Battle Network, and recently they came out with another one, which I can't think of.
ZX.
The ZX. Which also, they came out with the Mega Man, what was it? Mega Man, can't remember the title. Mega Man Zero for the Game Boy Advance.
Zero. Those ones were freaking hard.
Now, there have been 13 titles in this series as to date. The Mega Man X collection, which has Mega Man X through X5, I believe.
X6.
X6, yeah.
Everyone forgets about 6 because it was eh.
It was, well, Mega Man X5, I mean, the games are hard. They are difficult titles. They play kind of like the original Mega Man series, where you fight a boss known as a Maverick boss in this game, and you win their ability, which was always great about the Mega Man series. Now, this was the first title in the X series.
Now, let's talk about Mega Man a little bit in general. Mega Man was designed by Keiji Inafune, a young developer at Capcom, and he was given a project to head, and he came up with this character whom in Japan they call Rockman. And so,
which not the rock like a stone, but more like rock and roll.
And
rock and roll. And so it was very important for Keiji Inafune to get rockin' soundtracks. So if you notice, all of the Mega Man games have really upbeat, kind of cheese metal beats, which were really cool. You know, they have great theme music. And so this was the answer to everyone complaining about Mega Man hasn't evolved in the last, 8 years at that time for the NES.
6 titles, yeah.
6 titles and very few gameplay tweaks. And so they kicked everything up a notch with X. The challenge, the design, the scale,
the storyline, mainly.
The storyline. They added a lot that wasn't there.
And the storyline for Mega Man X is very in-depth and very intense in the sense that you have characters who are dying. That's the first thing that was added that really, you had to have an emotional core. Somebody had to pay the price throughout the game. There's an actual sense of doom and danger. He's trying to protect a civilization where maverick robots are going out and killing people.
Speaking of Zero.
Zero, boy or girl?
I think Zero
non-sexual.
is asexual. It's a robot.
Yeah, well, that's true.
Yeah,
what about those pleasure bots?
you know what Zero is he's that
Anti-hero.
that weird thing in Japan where they have like the heroic guy sexual but non-sexual relationship going on. Like they'll look into each other's eyes deeply. Look at them.
They are. That right there. That was.
But they're
when
not
Zero
gay.
dies
It's
in
not
this
a gay
title-
thing in Japan. It's a thing. It's it's a cultural thing.
Now, in this game, you can also collect power-ups that Dr. Light left back for Mega Man X in the future. The first one would be in Chill Penguin level, where you get the leg upgrade, where you can dash, which is nice. You can also get a helmet that'll let you break certain blocks, an armor plate that makes, I believe, your energy doesn't go down as fast if you get hit, and you can get the X Buster Advanced, which you can upgrade all your power-ups that you're using already, or your boss weapons. The other thing that was cool is they hid in Armadillo stage the Street Fighter upgrade, the Taiyuken, or what do they call that?
The Shoryuken.
Yeah, the Shoryuken.
That is one of the coolest
the Street Fighter thing.
kind of
That's what I
kind
call
of
it.
game tie-in things, because those probably are Capcom's two most popular series, and
the power-up is very useful because it can defeat any enemy with one hit, and that includes Sigma, the end boss. To use it, there's a certain button pattern you have to use.
You have to do the
You have to do-
Shoryuken move.
You have to do the move.
Yeah, from the Street Fighter.
Yeah,
game.
that's what's really interesting is you have to do the, what is it, down diagonal right,
Yeah.
and then hit the button.
And even in
It's the
Mega Man
same.
X2, they had the same thing. They had another move from the Street Fighter game that you could use. It was that power-up. that you had to
Hadouken.
do. There you go.
So,
it was pretty cool to unlock, and when I found out about it when I was a kid, I was like, "That's awesome! I have to try it." And it took me quite a few times.
It takes forever
Now,
to get that thing.
the other thing to talk about with the X games, this came out in '93, and it showed off a lot of the power of the Super NES. It was one of the better looking games graphically. It's very bright and colorful, shows off the 50-some thousand colors that the SNES can display at one time. And as we would see in the later X games, they would continue on pretty much with the same design, but they would push things even farther, and
They tried to do 3D with one of them.
Yeah, which did not work out at
yeah,
all.
well, Capcom actually made their own chip to add onto the carts for
X2 and
X2 and X3, which was essentially like the Super FX chip that Nintendo had released for some of their games, and so that was an interesting thing with the Super NES, was that they had the ability to add extra chips onto the cartridges to basically increase the power. It would process things on the chip, so that would give it some basically 3D processing power to a degree.
It's cool that they built the hardware where you could do it that way.
Yeah.
You didn't need any add-ons. That was a big thing we'll get into later, is how all the Super Nintendo was still able to, overcome the Genesis even with 2 additional add-ons.
And there's 2 more things I want to talk about real quick. The first is the level design in these games. Now, when you defeat a certain Maverick Hunter at the end of the level, it'll affect other levels, such as if you beat the squid, I can't remember his name, or the octopus, it'll affect the chameleon's level where everything will be flooded. Also, is the enemies in the Mega Man games, it was always a big thing to have the power-up that would defeat certain enemies. But in this game, literally, you see the effects, whereas if you use Chill Penguin on the electric guy, he will freeze. And it makes it really easy to defeat him, and that was a cool little add-on that you actually saw the weapon affecting rather than just the energy, but the actual character sprite.
It would actually
That was a cool addition
do
to
it.
the Super NES.
And this
actually
game
do
has,
status effects.
yeah, and this game has been remade a couple different times, and I think the most known one would be the PSP one, which was Maverick Hunters, which is an excellent remake that uses 3D technology of the PSP, and also changes where some of the upgrades is.
Well, yeah, it moved things around. It changed that beginning scene where you could actually win that.
Mm-hmm.
So there was some different things that they did with it, which was just kind of odd, but they did change it a little bit.
And they added voice for the characters
Yeah.
so that they could progress the storyline. But this is kind of like we said about Metroid. The storyline's in the gameplay in a lot of ways. You build a relationship with the character based upon what's going on through the levels.
And not to mention, they made the bosses really hardcore in this.
Oh yes.
Yeah, X is definitely it definitely earned the X. In America we think of that X as kind of like an extreme edgier feel.
Next generation.
Yeah, and Mega Man X definitely brought that to the table.
Yep.
And there is Chill Penguin defeated. Take that, you evil bastard.
Well, that was a nice look at Mega Man X. We're going to move on here to...
a look at X with the shotgun ice.
And he changes his color. Ooh.
So let's move on, gentlemen.
All right.
Kirby's Avalanche.
All right.
As they say, welcome to Kirby's Avalanche.
The Kirby's Avalanche is a puzzle game that is Puyo Pop, or whatever they call it. Puyo Pop.
Puyo Pop.
We got Kirby for the Super Nintendo version, and for the Sega version, you had Dr. Robotnik's Mean Bean Machine.
Mean Bean Machine.
There you
Now,
go.
you saw at the beginning, the company, I can't remember if it was Compile or Band Presto, but one of them owns the Puyo Pop design, and so all these companies license them off of it.
Oh.
So Dr. Robotnik's Mean Bean Machine, Kirby's Avalanche are licensed from them.
Now, the cool thing about this game is you have characters from the Kirby universe, as Poppy Jr. or whatever this character's name, that you fight against. And as you advance through the game and the level, your competitor gets more difficult to defeat. The character becomes a more difficult character in the Kirby universe, I guess would be the right thing to say.
So do you eventually fight Meta Knight?
Yeah,
Nice.
eventually.
The game design is essentially exactly the same as the Sega Genesis Dr. Robotnik's Mean Bean Machine.
And Puyo Pop is basically you line up 4 beans or whatever, little goopy guys.
Puyos, whatever they
whatever
are.
they're called, and whatever order is, they just have to be touching.
Oh.
And then it defeats, or it'll break apart from the puzzle. Now, if you can build up combos, which is always the fun thing I thought with this game, that however many combos you get, that will affect what goes the rocks or the solid Puyos that are dropped on the competitor's side. And that was the puzzle aspect of it. Very popular with mothers and grandmothers. Women love these types of games.
And Ron.
And Ron.
I love these types of games.
Ron has that feminine gene where he just enjoys these things.
Absolutely.
They're fun.
Yeah. I've always loved all the Puyo Pop games, which is why I'm playing this one.
What else can be said of this game? The music is excellent. It's very upbeat and fast, as you can tell.
You can also play these 2-player, which gives you
That competitive.
the competitive knocking the blocks onto the other players, and you see a little bit of the design in something like Super Puzzle Fighter with the basically screwing over your the person you're playing against and trying to drop the blocks.
My brother
back
making
on
me
them.
cry. That's what I used to call it, as he kicked my ass. I don't know what else is there to say.
Yeah, I mean,
It's a fun
the game
game.
doesn't really change much. This is it. It gets faster and harder, but this is the meat of it. But this is really all you need.
Yep.
Yeah, with puzzle games, there's really not too much to say about them. It's just you enjoy them.
That you enjoy the experience. So,
You just need to get a red one in there, and
Yeah.
you win.
oh yeah.
All
there
right,
it
he
is.
is defeated. So, hope you enjoyed this little look at Kirby's Avalanche, and we're gonna move on here. Welcome to Console Wars of the Past Part 3. We are doing Disney's Aladdin here. It's one of the licensed games from Capcom. They licensed a lot of the Disney library and made some really excellent games with them.
And this title is different than the Sega Genesis title and every other title of Aladdin that was released for different consoles. Every game that you could play differently.
Yeah, I thought that was kind of cool. They didn't just make one generic game for the Aladdin movie. They actually did.
Different titles, which,
Yeah.
I mean, Lion King didn't do that. Every title that you played in Lion King was pretty much the same. It was a port.
I loved Lion King though.
Oh,
That
the
was a
Lion
good
King title
game.
was good too, but this is an excellent title. As you can tell, it pulls from the license very well. From even just this first opening sequence of One Jump, I believe is the name of the song, which I would know, trust me.
Yes, you
But-
would.
It's definitely running off a Capcom engine. You can tell just from the way the game looks, the gameplay. It's an excellent title. It's a very in-depth title, and it has a lot of cool levels later on, whenever such as you're in the lamp, which was not part of the movie, but for some reason they added it in the game that you actually play inside the lamp.
Now, this is a well-designed licensed game. You can see, unlike... One thing I noticed with a lot of licensed games is you can't fluidly move through the levels. They deliberately put shit in your way that stops you, and that's bad level design. You can see with this, you can keep flowing and moving through the level, and, you know, the Genesis one was equally good.
Oh, we got a mini game.
Now, see, that's...
I mean, they're not the best games, but compared to a lot of licensed stuff, they are fun.
They're one of the better games, you know, for the system. They, like, Capcom really went out with their licensed titles.
The Mickey Mouse ones were fun.
We got it!
Oh.
That's the
What
smallest
is that?
square. Look at the luck. I kicked it up
sweet.
another heart.
Oh,
Nice.
we got a heart.
Oh, thank you, Genie.
Is that a perma heart?
Action.
Oh, that was...
I don't know what a perma heart is.
Oh, that means one that you keep permanently. Not one that's just disappears.
I think Ray just made that up, actually. I don't think that...
Got a
But we'll
rug.
call it that.
Hey,
Oh, you got that little
we make up our own
floating
terms
thing.
here.
It's alright.
What's that called, Ray?
Parachuting.
And the music's very upbeat and happy. The graphics are definitely excellent. You can tell from the back, even the background that's scrolling.
And the music definitely keeps with the
Spirit of the movie.
the spirit of the movie. Yeah, it's the same kind of instrumentals. I don't know what you call
I
that.
like how Aladdin's like a little Mario. He can jump on their heads.
Oh yeah.
It's kind of fun.
Yeah, it's just a basic platforming game, but
it's
the
an
design's
excellent
pretty
platform.
good.
Yeah, it's got some really good level design, and that really has to, you know, reflect on the developer, because Capcom was probably one of the best developers on the Super Nintendo.
Yeah.
Yeah, they were definitely rocking the Super Nintendo. Dun, 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 dun. There we go.
Like, even their licensed games are a step above the rest. And then we looked at Mega Man a little while ago, and Mega Man X was a great in level design.
They just definitely have a good engine, whatever they were running off of.
It was their arcade engines. I mean, they were running more advanced stuff than the Super NES hardware, so basically they had to scale down their games from what they were developing on for a lot of them. So, you know, Capcom's always kept ahead of the technology for the home consoles, which really gives them an advantage in developing. You know, you saw something like Final Fight, which was a very, very early Super Nintendo game that used a lot of effects that other games would take years before they could perfect.
Yeah, not to mention the Super Nintendo version of Street Fighter.
Yeah, absolutely. It was definitely the superior home version of it, and kept a lot of the arcade aesthetics, and a lot of the, you know, the frame rate, the colors. It was a good port. So Capcom was really good with bringing their stuff home and making the home stuff great. Definitely one of the third parties that was instrumental in the Super Nintendo, I guess, winning this console war, and perhaps Nintendo losing the next console war.
Because Capcom, there was hardly any Capcom games on the N64
I can't
from
think
what
of
I can
any, can
remember.
you?
Yeah, Capcom, it almost seemed like the company had a glut during that time, looking for what their next big thing was.
I mean, the only thing they really came with was Resident Evil.
Right, which we'll get into that during the PlayStation era a little bit more.
Is there anything else we can say about Aladdin?
No, I think we've covered Aladdin. We
it's
just
a
kind of went on a
movie.
spiel on Capcom there.
Yeah, we're having fun watching you play this.
Yeah,
There you
it
go.
looks like a fun game.
Well, let us move on then.
Let's move on.
Kind of kid you can name? Sears has a Super NES game with 16-bit graphics. It's the new exciting one. Comes with Super Mario World for kids who love fun. For all those kids who love to fly, Pilot Wings is what to buy. F-Zero for kids who love to race and hover out there up in space. Or for kids who want more joy, another game. It's Game Boy. What do computer kids want this year? For the game Nintendo, you can count on Sears. Hurry!
これがメトロイド。
まだ幼虫だ。
しかしこのエネルギーは人類の役に立つかもしれん。あ、ヘビーメトロイドが奪われる。
緊急指令。スペースハンターサムス・アラン、さらわれたベビーメトロイドを奪い返す。
スーパーファミコンソフトスーパーメトロイド、とてつもない地下要塞が待ち受けている。
Same graphics, same moves. It looks like the arcade, man.
Arcade, man.
16 bits.
16 bits.
All I can say is Killer Instinct only on Super NES, complete with Killer Cuts game music CD. It's totally uncensored. So who needs a new system?
X. All the bases are on.
西暦 2100WX 年、レプリロイドたちの反乱が始まった。もう一人のヒーロー、ロックマン X。スーパーファミコンで発売中。君はまだ X を知らない。カプコン。
And here is the Lost Levels.
Now, Lost Levels is a different kind of game, which the reason they didn't release it in America is because they thought it was too difficult for American audiences. You had the
because we're lazy.
Yeah, we didn't want to fight through 15 Bowsers to get to the end of the game. You know, that would just confuse us. We go, what?
Oh,
we feel cheated.
And they do this to Ray. And so as you can see, but see that's you see from this is level 1-1, and you see that this is drastically more difficult than Super Mario Brothers 1. That game anyone could kind of hop into and start dawdling along, and there's a little bit of sense of danger, but you know
you're all right.
You can chill. You know the first couple levels are pretty calm. This game right away you've got mushrooms you can't get. You've got poison mushrooms flying at you. 5 Koopas, Troopas.
That's too many.
That's too many. That is
another poison. Good mushroom.
So the whole way along in this game,
I think the Mafia made this game because they're just throwing out poison mushrooms, too many Koopa. I think this is definitely Bowser's Revenge. It should have been the subtitle.
Should just call it Bowser's
Revenge.
Yeah, it really should have been. It's unrelenting. Every level of this game is difficult.
Now, the cool thing about this remake is you'll notice you have a scrolling background that has 2 layers. You have your clouds in the background and your hills. I think it's a nostalgia thing, too. Even now with Smash Brothers Brawl that was released last week or 2 weeks ago, I can't remember. You know, you have entire levels that are Mario levels that are direct. I mean, the one level that you fight in is a direct port of the first level from the first game, which is really cool. And us Nintendo fanboys are all about the nostalgia aspect of it, and that was the cool part about having this for the Super Nintendo, is it's nostalgic in the sense that you say, hey, we can play these games now. I'll say nostalgia 80 more times. I don't care.
I'm just laughing at the level design in this because they mess with you so much. You have to keep you can't go fluidly the way you did in the earlier, well, I guess Mario 1, because this came out directly after Super Mario Brothers 1, but you can do this cool stuff as well. And these were the interesting design aspects that Shigeru Miyamoto created, like running on top of the screen there. I don't know of any game that ever did something like that before Super Mario Brothers 1. And so this is actually,
like a
I mean, this is actually a Famicom NES game that we're looking at, but you know, again,
it's
this
been retooled.
Exactly.
They threw in the bloopers in 1-3.
And the cool part,
in the air, nonetheless.
Yeah, really.
And so, this is beginning, like we said before, of seeing repackaging, which they've taken to the extreme now with the Virtual Console. You know, they know that people will pay to play these games, but they put 4 games on this compilation. Now you're paying. Well, you paid for 4 games, now you might pay for 1 game. So they've really got us by the balls in the sense that we will pay to
Yeah, at least
play
the
our
virtual
past.
console's kind of cheap with the pricing. You get an NES game for $5.
That's not bad.
$6 for this one because it's from Japan.
Yeah, and TurboGrafx games, which were a 16-bit system, were only $600. So it's not bad. As far as like the $40 Final Fantasy repackages, I don't know about that.
Or you could just buy the actual classic version, you know. I think the original versions are always generally the best, but you know, like something like this was definitely a great
It depends
upgrade.
on if you want it on that format or if you want to, you know, the graphical overhaul and to play it on your new system. I think that's kind of the appeal of the virtual console. At least my appeal on it is that I can just play it on my Wii and I don't need like 30 consoles cluttering up my house, you know?
Yeah.
So, is there anything else to say about this game, or should we move on?
It's ridiculously hard.
It is ridiculously hard.
Ray hates it.
Oh, come!
He curses
Ray
it.
will swear at it many times.
I'm trying not to drop an F-bomb in
Ray's
this
hell
one,
is
but
playing this game over and over again for eternity. This and the crappy PC version of Mario 1.
And
that one does not deserve mention.
And this is why they didn't bring it. This is why they didn't bring it to America. They didn't think that we would be able to handle the challenge factor and still get into it.
But your princess is another character.
Right or wrong, I don't know about
princess.
that.
They changed it.
Our princess, ah.
Yeah.
Alright, let's move on.
She's not the princess, she's their princess.
Yeah, she does. We can no longer hold claim to her. Alright, everybody. Welcome back to Console Wars of the Past Part 3. Today we are taking on one of the most graphically intense games for the Super NES.
Quit saying today, Ray. It's the same day.
Star Fox. Well, they could be watching it on separate days.
But we're playing. We need, you know, we're doing this all in one thing. We're looking at these systems as you were there, sit down and play it kind of feel. So we're sitting down and doing a gamut of games here. We're on game number what? 7?
7.
We're on number 7, hammering our way through the Super Nintendo.
And
so what is this?
Star Fox.
Star Fox. In case you've never played this classic.
And I would suggest you play it if you've never played before. This game
Absolutely.
is intense. This game holds up. It is tight. It is atmospheric as heck. It is just fun. Now, the cool thing about Star Fox is, to start off with a little bit of the gameplay aspect of it, it is a 3D version of all those cool asteroid games or Space Invaders or whatever, put in a cool realm. It's also got kind of the 3D film feel, the retro feel that we all knew was coming our way, but this is one of the first games to actually use it. You also have teammates, Slippy the Frog, which is probably the worst Nintendo character ever.
One of
up there with
Tingle.
Up there
New
with
Gen
Tingle.
Gamers.
We hate Slippy.
Most hated.
Slippy is
pointless character.
A bad word. You also have Falco, which is pretty cool, and Peppy
Falco.
the Hare.
Yeah, Falco and
Falco's kinda
Peppy.
cool.
Yeah,
Peppy's all right. You don't mind Peppy,
No,
but
he
Slippy's
doesn't-
a douche.
He just needs to die. Anyhow, you have your teammates who can be attacked and you have to save them, which was advanced further in the sequels.
Yeah,
They
you-
also help you, sort of.
Yeah,
This
you
looks
have.
really good.
Yeah, you know you have some flanking.
Oh, this
For
game
a
definitely
Super
holds
Nintendo
up.
game.
It holds
Yes,
up.
Ray,
Well,
it's awesome.
Let's talk about the chip they
This
use.
is the Super FX chip's capability, man. Polygons. Look at this.
I never played the original Star Fox.
You never played this?
You never played this?
No.
Okay, let him play this. Ray, play this.
Play this.
I played Star Fox
Shoot.
64.
Oh man, this is the best one.
Whoa, what the hell did you do there?
That was a bomb.
It's up.
Now, the other cool thing is that you can get the bombs that Ray's using a lot, which is alright.
How do you fire like that? Okay.
There you go. The cool thing, though, is when you go to outer space, you can also use an in the craft kind of view, which gives you kind of a crosshairs to shoot things
Yeah.
with. It really immerses you even more in the game that is going on.
Yeah, so this was a fairly early Super NES game, and just having polygons and being in a 3D world is puts it leaps and bounds above a lot of what was out there. And as we spoke about before, this was using the Super FX chip, which allowed the Super NES to basically do more than it was intended to do, because the chip is built onto the cartridge, no additional hardware needed. The cartridges, I don't even think the games, I don't think they charged more at retail even. I think they were just regular retail games. So this was to kind of compete with the Sega CD and 32X stuff, and it was all done right on the cartridges.
Now, there's a lot of levels in this game, and you could take different paths that would take you different places. There were also hidden aspects, such as in the asteroid field, you could shoot an asteroid with a face and go into kind of like a time warp, where you could find Fox's father, which is a part of the gameplay storyline where he was missing in action.
Yeah, that's kind of a cool thing.
And the other cool thing was Nintendo had a tie-in with the macaroni and cheese at the time, where on the back of the boxes they would have information such as that would explain hidden things in games.
Right, yeah.
The other cool thing is in the 64 title, you'll see a lot of these bad guys are reused or implemented differently. And Star Fox actually had a Star Fox 2 that was supposed to be released for the Super Nintendo, to the point where I think Game Informer or EGM or some magazine that was kind of a magazine that looked at all aspects.
I think the game was almost done.
It was done to the point where they had a walkthrough for the first couple levels. And in Star Fox 2, they were going to have things such as Land Rovers, multiplayer action, but they didn't have linear levels. They had kind of 3D arenas where you would fight the bad guys, which you saw in the 64 title whenever you had to guard the large bases. You'll notice like things such as like the shadow right there of the bad guys, which adds a lot of atmosphere. The music is very atmospheric.
For being an early polygonal game,
it did so many things right.
Yeah, it doesn't really have textures on anything, but there is definitely some shading and a little bit of shadowing, which is enough to give you the atmosphere. It's not generic. You know, it doesn't feel generic like a lot of the early actual 3D games and 3D systems did.
And almost sadly to say, the Star Fox series has become generic. I mean, the first game is probably the best in the series, and after that, as you went on, the 64 title is pretty good, but the GameCube titles aren't that well done.
Adventures was alright.
Perhaps if Star Fox 2 could have made it out and been a big hit, maybe things would have been different, but
at this point, it's more a subpar series.
Yeah, it's just another series for Nintendo at this point.
They didn't do with Star Fox what they did with Metroid and completely, like, make it a 3D standard.
Yeah, they didn't. I don't know, whatever it is Nintendo does, where they bring a series up to the next level, but
and this game
just keep that thing. I don't know.
This game was so new at the time too. You know, this is one of the first 3D games, or attempting 3D. And now, it's old news. We've seen it. We're not going to be impressed by. And they keep trying to put in niche things such as having ground levels and such, but honestly, it doesn't work because we've seen it all.
I think it was just a matter of this game when it came out at the time. Because,
right time, right place.
Yeah, it was one of the few good 3D games at the time, and in a time when there was a million of these types of shooter games on the market, it really stood above with the gameplay. Yeah, you see right here, Ray's played it one time now, and you get down the levels, you know where stuff's going to be, and you get really good at it.
The other thing is, this entry in the series, being the first, is very mature compared to the later entries, where it became more cartoony. This game has a very mature feeling.
Yeah, it really does.
A very dark ambience to it.
A feeling of impending space doom.
Exactly, whereas the new games are more cartoony and like, oh, we're in danger, but we're furry creatures, so what's it matter?
Kind of like the Sonic series took a downturn that way as well. So we've seen that a couple with some of the 16-bit icons, where they've kind of been kiddified because they've been called kiddie for so long. You're not, ripping someone's head off.
They're just cashing in on nostalgia is all they're doing. And, if they don't keep the heart of the game, then that's all it becomes.
And this is an intense battle right here. Look at this.
Yeah, these boss battles are very epic.
And later games in the series, they would have the bosses talk to you. But right now, you're isolated. You're fighting an enemy.
This thing.
Oh! I was right there.
You needed to shoot your bomb, Ray.
Oh.
If you would have just used that bomb.
Like I was at the very beginning. Alright.
Alright, well that's Star Fox.
Yeah, that was
definitely a great game.
I'll have to try this some more later.
Yeah, I can't believe you missed this one, Ray. So if anyone else has missed this one, as you can see, Ray definitely enjoyed it.
Let us move on.
Recommended by Ray.
Yes, it is. Okay. Here we're continuing on with Earthworm Jim. Alright, go ahead.
There he is.
There's the worm.
This is from Shiny Entertainment, who would later bring us Wild 9 for the PlayStation, also Enter the Matrix, which we don't want to discuss too much here.
Stop bringing it up, Ray.
Sorry, it deserves to be.
Everyone's tried to erase that horrible game from their memory.
Now, see, in the mid '90s, it seemed like everyone had Earthworm Jim fever in every sense. I remember there was a cartoon series, I remember there were toys for the games, toys for the TV.
Yeah, it got
a little out of control.
They promoted the crap out of it.
It's because of the game design, though. It really is satirical and goofy.
Much like
you have to save Princess What's-Her-Name. I love that. Because every time it's goddamn... Who cares about the princess? So in this one, they're like, her name is Princess What's-Her-Name. You know, and little clever jokes like that made this a lot of fun.
And what eventually ended up killing the license was the third game in the series, which isn't a bad game. It's a very different...
a third one?
Yeah, Earthworm Jim 3D. It's a very different title. It's definitely keeps the comedy aspect of the game, but it doesn't play as well as a 3D game should because they moved it to 3D.
Some 3D ones that they made.
Some games should not be made
series.
in 3D.
Mega Man.
Castlevania should not be made in 3D.
Yeah, Castlevania and Mega Man are two that I would think. Mega Man might work as a first-person shooter. I don't know.
You know, it's the design. You know, and if you just have a general platforming type experience that moves quickly, sometimes it's hard to get that feel in 3D. And you know,
Earthworm Jim is definitely all about the comedy, about the wacky things that are happening in this world. I mean, you're an earthworm in a spacesuit or whatever this is.
So would you say that Earthworm Jim was kind of a parody game?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, that's what it brought to the table. You know, it's another platforming game for the Super NES and Genesis, but it had some cool character design and elements that made it different enough.
And Ray brought this up earlier. Which is the better version, the Super Nintendo version or the Genesis version? And I feel the Super Nintendo version has brighter colors, compared to the Genesis version, which is very dulled down.
Now that I'm seeing the Super Nintendo version in action, I'm going to have to give it to the Super Nintendo version.
Yeah, the sound quality is good.
Ray's eating a sandwich.
Yeah, I sound a little bit muffled. I'm hungry. Retro games make me hungry.
Ray needs retro.
That t-shirt. That should be a t-shirt. Come on. With Ray's face on it, a thumbs up.
Ray needs retro.
But back to Earthworm Jim. If he was eating a hot dog, that would be very appropriate.
Yeah.
Yeah, and again, even just the earthworm character, he's an earthworm that got inside of a super spacesuit that made him extra special powered,
This game
something.
is definitely hard.
It's hard as hell.
I remember when I was a kid playing it, and you get to the point where you're in the water levels.
That's kind of cool.
Oh, man, it was
See his face?
There's a lot of places where it's almost impossible to avoid getting hit, which is part of the frustration of this game.
Now I'm noticing some of the comedy aspects, like when he was pulling back on the wire, he kind of looked like Rambo.
Oh, yeah, the character animation.
Everything. Yeah, everything in the game has some sort of subtle little joke in it. When he pulls himself up on the chain there, he grabs his ass. Pulls his butt up. I don't know, whatever you want to say.
Look, he looks like Rambo doing that. He's
yeah, they're very over the top with this, and I've noticed that all of Shiny's games are kind of that way, and that's Dave Perry is a very obscure guy. I've seen a press photo of him with a chimp. Like, what is he hanging out with chimps for?
He does, though. He
does.
Give him these ideas.
The can of wax from Wild 9.
Yeah, Wild 9 is a very goofy title, which if you check out our PlayStation Console Wars of the Past video, you can see that. So, Dave Perry's still innovating and has some new stuff coming up. Some sort of music and beat game. I'm not sure exactly what that'll be, but this is the one that really put Shiny on the map.
It almost feels like you're playing a Looney Tunes cartoon.
That's what
it really is. Yeah, it really has that kind of slapstick, over-the-top cartoony comedy that's
It's Chuck
It's
Jones-ish.
fun. Yeah, there you go. Chuck Jones-ish.
That should be, yeah, that's his own thing.
It is. It really is.
Oh, I saw that movie yesterday. It was very Chuck Jones-ish.
It's kind of a silly, satirical parody.
And an excellent platform.
What is that, a red?
It's a redneck.
Yeah, and you're fighting the redneck here from the junkyard, you know.
It spits out fish?
Whoa, all rednecks do.
Nice.
All the ones I know.
All the ones I know spit out fish. What are you talking about? You sounded surprised. Anyhow.
You're from West Virginia, Ray. Come on, you know this.
I always thought they spit out beer.
Well, let us move on.
Yes.
Okay.
Now, the Super Game Boy allowed you to play your Game Boy games on your Super Nintendo.
This is a fine item.
You see as it plugs into the system there, and then you just pop your Game Boy game into it. Now, we showcase the Super Game Boy for a little bit here, and you'll get to see all the different aspects that it brought to the table. Now, I want to look at the bottom of this real quick. Yep. It's got the extra chips, too.
Yeah, so what was interesting was Nintendo made the ability that developers could add extra chips onto the cartridges. Now, as you can see, the main part of the cartridge connector is right here. But they have an extra space here that would let the developer essentially create anything they wanted to add in with the cartridge. So they could add an extra graphics engine, they could add extra processing capabilities, you know, that would allow this to essentially have the Game Boy hardware right inside of this.
It was a very neat innovation at the time.
As opposed to this fat brick. You could play your game on the Super Nintendo.
Welcome to the Super Game Boy segment of the Super Nintendo Console War of the Past.
Let's show off the features of the well, explain the Super Game Boy a little bit, I guess, and then we'll show off the features.
The Super Game Boy was an extra peripheral that you could get for the Super Nintendo. It was essentially a Super Nintendo cartridge that had Game Boy hardware built on it. So you could play every single Game Boy game on your Super Nintendo by plugging it into the Super Game Boy cartridge.
And in color.
Now this would
And
work
in
on
color.
games that were released even after the Super Nintendo's demise that were original Game Boy games.
Yeah, and it was the exact Game Boy hardware. Anything that was released for the Game Boy hardware, it would support.
So it would play even Pokemon Red.
Yeah, when I played Pokemon originally, all I had was a black and white Game Boy, the original Fat Boy, and I didn't like that thing, so I played it on the Super Nintendo because it was one of the first games to actually have Super Game Boy support, which some of the later Game Boy games would then have, which allowed them to have, I believe, 14 colors on screen at once.
Now the cool thing about
I had a Donkey Kong game that played with the Super Game Boy.
The Donkey Kong game was the original game released
and it had
for
a different and it had a different surrounding background type thing or frame. The games that were released after the Super Game Boy had a frame that came with whatever game it was that was kind of like a skin for the game you were playing. Now let's kind of show off.
The Super Game Boy compatible ones, not all of them were. You know, it was up to the developer whether they wanted to implement this. But if they did have a Super Game Boy compatible cart, which we won't be looking at one here today, but it would change the background. It would allow them to have up to 14 colors on screen. And if you didn't have a regular, or if you didn't have a Super Game Boy game, if you were playing a regular Game Boy game, it would give you a generic palette of 4 colors, and then you could change the 4 colors to any color you wanted. Basically, it was the original 4 colors that the Game Boy would have, but then you could just alter them. See, there you can see there's some pre-made palettes, and then you can customize them as well.
Go to D. I like D. No, not D.
We need some purple.
E works. Yeah, E looks really good.
Okay.
Or we can change it. There's more, as you can see.
Yeah, there's tons of them, or you can fully customize it.
Where is the customizer one?
So, of course, here we're looking at Tetris, which was the game that came with the Game Boy.
And as you can see, I'm changing the frame around it. I always like the movie theater frame as though people are watching a movie.
Yeah, I thought that was fun.
I always thought that fit.
Yeah, let's go with that one. That
Alright,
looks
what
good.
else? Other options? do we
That's
have here?
us. I'm the guy with the cane.
Control type A, B.
You
Change
can
that up.
Now what's this?
This one is the color one. So we
Oh,
can
this
change-
is was a fun almost mini game. Oh no, this isn't that. I thought you went into the
I will in
where
a
you can make the
second.
custom backgrounds. Yeah, that's definitely worth noting and looking
See,
at.
and there you can also take a screenshot, evidently, for whatever reason.
Yeah, if you
I'm
put
not
in
sure
the
what that
password,
does.
it'll save it for you. It looks like.
Oh, that's yeah. It'll save your palette so you can write your number down and bring it back up whenever you want. Yeah, now here you can make a custom background. This you can't save.
Oh wait.
But you know, if you wanted to theme your background while you're playing something, you can you know, put whatever you want.
And there's NGG.
So as Duck recommends, go to ngg.com apparently.
Well, New Gen Gamers would take way too long to write.
And that's a duck.
And there he is.
Yay! Holding a beer.
He looks so happy.
And smoking a cigarette.
With 3 legs. I wonder what
Anyhow.
that last one is.
What a horrible background.
Yeah, let's go to the movie theater one.
Yeah, I like that one.
So this was a really cool add-on for the Super Nintendo.
And basically you just play your Game Boy games on the Super Nintendo. It would be nice if, you know, the Game Boy screen wasn't very
color lucent.
Yeah.
Color
like,
lucent?
I don't know. It works. Really that stuff works. I was just like, yeah. You know, it was very
I'm the
beige.
decider. I
It wasn't
can
black
decide
and
these
white.
words.
You know, they came out with the Game Boy Pocket. It had a more clear screen. Had a clearer screen.
More clear.
Well, that sounded like we were playing Earthworm Jim again. A more clear screen.
Yeah, the LCD technology got better, you know, as the Game Boy went on, and the Game Boy Pocket was basically just a little upgrade of the hardware. But it was the same. Aesthetically, it was different, but it was the same hardware running the system.
You know, and this is a point that has went away over the years. I remember everyone used to bitch about the tiny screen to the point where you had, like, magnifying glasses on your Game Boy that made the screen, like, 1% bigger, and like, oh, I can see it better. And
add
you know,
10 pounds to the weight of the Game Boy.
Exactly, and this just made it easier for everyone, you know. This cut out a lot of the bitching. And it honestly,
this was such a great product for them to release because...
And they released an advanced version for the GameCube.
Absolutely.
Yeah, the Game Boy player was awesome.
Yeah, and this was the first version of that, and it let you play your portable games at home.
And like
I put 140 some hours into Pokemon Red,
well,
and I would not
Pokemon
have done
probably-
it on a handheld,
Pokemon
only because I
probably
could.
worked out because of this peripheral right here, because a lot of people did play Pokemon on it, you know, and it prolonged the life of the SNES, you know, and it brought a lot of fans to Pokemon. I know everyone who played it when I was a kid back in '96, you know. That's what they had, a Super Game Boy that they played it on. No one really played it on their Game Boy. They played it on their TV screen because it was such an epic game for such a small system.
Yeah, it was. Except for like level grinding, it was tough to sit down and play for long periods of time on the Game Boy. You know, it's a handheld. It's a pick up and go system, and that was one of the first deeper games for the system.
And it would save you a lot of battery life in a game such as Pokemon. You know, you don't want your battery dying when you're in the midst of a great battle against, you know, trying to get whatever it was, your pins or your badges.
Badges, yeah, or replacing the batteries constantly. So the Super Game Boy was such a great solution, and even just getting the 14 colors with some of the games made them a lot better. So then you could play them on the handheld, you know, with the black and white, but then take it home and play it and have the extra color all around
I can
it.
play Tetris all day, but I'm gonna switch out to a different game.
Very
soothing. It's like a refreshing, cool water feeling.
It is very soothing.
Hey, look, Mario's red.
No, this is a Game Boy game that is very different. Very different.
This is one of the ones, as we were talking about needing the magnifying glass on some of the early Game Boy games. This
Yeah,
is
no
one you
kidding.
needed the magnifying glass
Or
for.
you had to be up on it. I think I wear glasses because of this game.
Ray sold 80,000 candy
Cookies,
bars
yeah.
to
What'd
get
you
this
sell to get
game.
this
What you guys? Yeah, you guys want to tell my Game Boy story?
We don't know it, Ray. You got to tell it.
Okay, what I did was I was in one of those school, fundraiser type things, and the top prize was
Top frog.
the top prize. The top prize was a Nintendo Game Boy when they first came out.
And
So-
Ray knocked on so many doors and woke up so many old ladies and gave them pitiful Ray eyes, and they bought so many useless things. And
I believe I sold 20 boxes of candy, which were 20 bars a piece. So
Wow.
yeah, I
That
sold
is
about
impressive.
200 candy bars to get my Game Boy.
Hershey has an award that they made especially for Ray.
Yep.
And so
This is why Ray's a Nintendo fanboy.
Oh yeah, I loved my Game Boy. That was
Literally.
That was pretty much my
Ray
my
took it-
system. I took it everywhere.
Ray took it on his honeymoon, I guarantee it.
I had a GBA.
now
I gotta have that downtime,
that is
between
true.
The,
Now
yeah.
this is a design by Gunpei Yokoi for the Game Boy very early on in its life.
It's a very ingenious game. I love this version of Mario.
So is there anything else with the Super Game Boy we want to show off here?
Nope, that's pretty much it.
That's pretty much all it does. It has a few little extra aesthetic things it'll do, but essentially it'll just let you play Game Boy games on the Super Nintendo.
And back in 93, 94, you needed it. Alright. Sim City.
Hello, and we're continuing on here with Console Wars of the Past Part 3 point something for the Super Nintendo segment, and we're looking at Sim City.
Sim City.
The original Sim City, which was ported over from the PC version. Now this was a special,
Wow.
This was a special partnership between Nintendo and Maxis, because Will Wright and Shigeru Miyamoto were both fans of each other's works, and so the two of them kind of joined up and decided to create a joint title, or not joint title, but work together to bring this title to the Super Nintendo.
Now, wasn't this a launch game?
It was.
I believe so.
I'm not sure if it was launched, but I know it was very early, like 92.
Because I think I remember F-Zero, this game, and something else launched with the Super Nintendo. Super Mario World. Yeah,
Okay.
something else. It was Super Mario World.
There you
Duh.
go. The one game no one's heard about.
Yeah.
Super Mario World.
So this was very interesting, and this is a lot different than the Windows version. This is essentially a completely different game engine. All the buildings look different.
It's an it's a top overhead view.
It has a lot better graphics. So this was definitely a better version, and other than the advantages of using a mouse on the computer, this was the superior version, and I played the hell out of this personally. Now, as you can see here, we talked to Dr. Wright, and this is a kind of a caricature of Will Wright, the designer of the game. He doesn't have green hair.
Kind of looks like Will Wright without the hair.
Looks a little bit like him.
And the cool thing is, in Super Smash Bros. Brawl, he is one of the characters who's an assist character, who will, if you get him, he'll just build a city on top of the enemy.
Yeah, he'll
Not
knock
build
you out
him,
with the city. Yeah,
knock
it
you
pops
with
out of the
city. It's pretty
ground.
cool.
And to talk about the Will Wright Nintendo connection, he was recently quoted as saying that, oh, we have a pollution warning, that he thinks that the Wii is the most innovative thing to come to console gaming in years, because of the change in the input device, and he's always been an admirer of Nintendo's work and of his work. So the two have come together a lot on projects such as My Sims, which was exclusive to Nintendo systems.
Which was a really fun game, by the way. Kind of simplified, but it was a fun game.
So now let's look at the other bonus super cool thing that came with the Super Nintendo version, which is the attack of Bowser.
Oh, seriously?
This is, of course, the only version of SimCity that can have Bowser attack the city, which is definitely cool.
Wow.
So for the Nintendo fanboys out there, this is the SimCity you want to own, because you can rain Bowser down upon your city.
Ripping.
There he is.
Rage.
Look
He's
at him.
Pooping. I mean, that's fire.
So he's terrorizing our city now.
Very good.
And this is the fun part of SimCity. You know, the city managing is such a great gameplay aesthetic, and it's so creative, and there's so many things you can do. But then the most fun of it, as with any sort of building things such as blocks or in the real world, once you build it up, just destroy it.
Yep.
You know, and so you can rain terror down upon your world. And of course, this one we have Bowser. The other really cool thing with this version of SimCity is this is the first one to add the bonus present items. So after like reaching certain population points, like when you reach 2,000 people, 10,000 people, 50,000 people, you'll get bonus specialized structures such as the mayor's house, an expo center, and some other things that you know, will be very good for your city.
Don't you get a Mario statue too?
I believe you might.
Yeah.
Let's see if we have that on here. So that was this Super Nintendo version was the first one to have those. The SimCity 2000 for PC
copter.
did. Yeah, that's SimCopter 1, and he's reporting heavy traffic.
He should be reporting the giant lizard attacking.
Oh, they don't even notice.
They don't even care. In Japan, I mean, that's daily.
Yeah, they're used to that.
They're like,
that's like, oh, Godzilla.
no, we
attacking
can't
me.
go out
No.
today.
Oh, don't leave your houses. Giant lizard out, and they're just going, oh man,
No.
that's not right.
Oh,
That's why we didn't get our Chinese food, Jeremy.
Yeah, he's
Inside
decimated
joke,
about a good square there. Football stadium?
I'm looking. We don't have any presents available. I was looking to see if we could find that statue, because it's probably somewhere in the city here. There's the Expo Center. So I don't know what else you can really say about this.
City.
I'll tell you what else I can say about this is as far as the Will Wright Nintendo connection, there was also a version of SimCity 2000 that came out for the N64, which I never knew existed until I was looking up information on our N64 console wars. And it's another specialized version only for the Nintendo system, and it never came to America, but it has bonus gameplay aesthetics that the other versions didn't have, such as horse racing. There's a segment where a newscaster will come up in Japanese, and she's like the cutesy anime girl, and she'll say some things to you.
Oh no!
And
the amusement park.
Yeah, and then they show like these futuristic cutscenes of things that aren't in the game. Like the mayor's house looked like a spaceship. Only in Japan. So if you're a sim not like myself and you must play every version, definitely check out the N64 Japanese version. Now there's the Expo Center.
And definitely check out this version.
And definitely check out this version. This is a great one, and it plays very well for being on a console. And I can't find the Mario statue, so we're gonna wrap it up here.
Now we're moving on to one of the most popular sports games of the time. It kind of was doing the arcade sports genre. It's NBA Jam. We're waiting for it to load up here.
Acclaim knew what they were doing. Now this game brings back fond memories for me. We used to play this every morning before we went to school, and that's the great thing about NBA Jam is you can put in a quick 10-minute game or less if you want. You also have hidden characters such as Bill Clinton and Al Gore. who I always thought were excellent. And it is a very fun game. It's simplistic. Let's see if I can get in on this. No.
Hey, Ron.
Just go for it, man. Oh, I got it. Okay. Sweet. There's Pippin. You gotta have Pippin, man.
Oh, you taking Chicago.
You gotta.
Oh, who could compete with Chicago back then? No one.
Look at him.
How do you change your players once you select your team?
Like that.
Oh, no Shaq?
No Shaq.
That's only a tournament.
He was out doing Kazam, man. He was making Kazam at the time, and he could not show up to be
I'll take the Houston Rockets.
All right. A team I've never heard of. It's all right. Now let us begin.
You got Hakeem the Dream Olajuwon. It's not his real name.
It should be.
It was his given Muslim name.
The cool thing about NBA Jam is you have 2 players in the court instead of, 5 is a standard basketball game, right?
Oh, I'm the guy lagging.
But you also have a turbo, and you have the super dunks, which were one of the best features of the game.
Like that.
Like that.
Well, not exactly like that, but...
Here's a super dunk. Oh, yeah. And the Bulls always make them because they are the best team on this game. The announcer always cracked me up.
Woo!
I was like, Purdue! Not
Yes, that's of course
Purdue.
the famous Marv Albert, who would later go down in infamy for, what was it?
Sodomizing somebody.
Thanks, Ray, for remembering that.
Oh.
No problem.
Ray knows these things.
So this was done by Iguana, who was one of Acclaim's better developers, and would go on to do Turok and
South Park.
Yeah, the horrible South Park game for the N64, which for some reason me and my friend thought was really great when South Park first came out.
Well, it's 'cause it was South Park.
In retrospect, that game
shooting from back there
I have no clue.
is terrible. Play the turkey level if you want to go to hell.
And the other cool thing on this game is you get to be on fire.
That was definitely the
He's
coolest
on
thing.
Fire.
This was, as far as arcadey sports games, this one really hit the nail on the head. You know, you've got your turbo meter, you've got your power-ups with the on fire, where then you can do ridiculous slam dunks.
Yeah.
The tournament edition kicked it up even more with the points and the even more bonus power-ups. It got insane. And they continued this on with what, NBA Showtime? Was that?
Yeah.
All right,
kind of the pseudo sequel to these. Acclaim.
Whoa, I got the ball.
Acclaim went through a lot of stuff. So after this kind of era, where they had a string of successful home and arcade games, they kind of went downhill and eventually went bankrupt. But now they're back. So Acclaim is back.
They made it. They're back?
Yeah, Acclaim will not die.
I was almost certain they were dead.
No, they were dead, but they just came out with something new. I can't think of what it is, but they are back, definitely.
Wow.
Yep. I mean, it's probably under different ownership and everything, but the company and name
kind of like Atari.
Do they label things from the makers of NBA Jam?
From the makers of a bunch of crappy licensed games, brings you the newest crappy licensed game.
I remember.
Have you seen the movie? Then you're gonna love.
This year, Bicentennial Man, the game. Robin Williams was just an ordinary man. I mean, robot.
Until one day.
Movies that should never be made. And games that should never be made.
But Acclaim will make.
Acclaim will make anything.
So, we rag on Acclaim a lot, but this was really their glory day right here.
Oh, absolutely.
This and bringing Mortal Kombat home.
Bringing down the house of the game would be good. That would
bring down the house.
So,
Queen Latifah.
How many minute quarters are you on here?
We're not sure. I think we're like
okay, I thought that said 11 minutes.
No.
It was 1.5. And this is a great two-player game. You can get a lot of smack talking
going. Even a
going.
four-player game, it's really good too.
Yeah, absolutely. you know, you can have a
And you
lot
had-
of fun with this.
And you had that option too. They had the converter that would allow you to play 4-player. I don't think in this edition, but in the tournament edition you could.
Yeah, I think you're right. I think that you had to have the tournament. Well, I don't know.
No, something.
Not sure, actually. Actually.
What were you gonna say, Ray?
I lost my train there.
All right.
I say some crazy stuff.
Hey Ray, why don't you just get it in a couple times and you can be on fire?
Ray's drunk, so don't worry about it. Nah.
3 points. Here. Take that ball.
And as you can see, you got a nice crowd in the background here for this time period. They don't move or anything, but they do look like people.
Oh.
Oh, this is a tight one.
And let's see the video. Dun, 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 dun. Dun, 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 dun. Dun, 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 dun.
Yeah,
oh, there it is.
There it is. Look at that.
Woo.
What was that guy's name?
Pippin,
Horace Grant.
Horace Grant. That's it. Yep.
And the halftime report with with live video.
Yeah, you get your stats here. This is pretty sweet.
Yeah, that's not bad.
Yeah, that's pretty good stats. It's just run around with turbo.
This took the best of the NBA because NBA, you know, it's all about the superstars on those teams because one player really just dominates and, you know, can own a team. And so, you know, in this game, you basically just focused on using the best players and
it's all star power, baby.
And getting that star power. Having that star power.
So that's pretty much it for NBA Jam, isn't it?
I think
what
so.
else to say? Basketball games aren't the same anymore. This is one of the best, you know.
Yeah, there's been attempts at a arcade basketball like this with NBA Ballers and yeah, Ballers. Ballers.
And they were balls, nonetheless.
And oh, what was that one? Street?
Yep.
Yeah.
And you know, they do not match.
They can't
this
capture the magic of this.
This is so simplistic. It works.
Yeah, it was one of those just simple, effective game designs.
And you could break the backboard too. That's always fun.
Absolutely. It had a lot of fun. It really did just take the best of basketball.
You know, and it's one of those hyper-realistic
in...
things, kind of like Blitz was for football, you know, when it was big, where you could body slam somebody after everything was said and done.
Yeah, and Blitz was really the progenitor of this, because, you know, that's...
Yeah.
Is progenitor the right word?
I think it's offspring.
Yeah.
Offspring's
This is the progenitor for Blitz, because Midway did a string of these types of games, and tried different things, and nothing really took off the way NBA Jam did.
I just threw it right to you.
That's all right. So yeah, that's pretty much it then.
Okay.
And of course, you can go for the stupid long shots, which sometimes work.
Sometimes. Not from back there.
Bam. Swish. Nothing but that.
Oh, I wasn't paying attention.
All-Stars, so much Mario, it's a Mario smorgasbord. It's all without Mario Brothers Adventures you ever played and then some. But this is Two-Star 16-bit only on the Super Nintendo Entertainment System Mario. So it's bigger Mario, better Mario, in-your-face Mario. It's Raccoon Mario, Mario throwing fireballs, Mario hurling turnips, Mario negotiating an arms deal. Okay, maybe not. It's Mario like you've never seen him. What's 2 plus 2 Mario? What's the capital of Ohio? Mario. You're gonna live, breathe, eat, sleep Mario. In Super Mario All-Stars, 4 Mario games, including the never-before-seen lost level, so you can't get more Mario than this, which is why the best player here.
You are witnessing a new technology. The first and only game powered by the Super FX microchip. Why go to the next level when you can go light years beyond? You are Fox McCloud in Starbox, only for the Super Nintendo Entertainment System.
The story of Earthworm Jim video game. In outer space, a sweet evil cyclone lost a clean cyberspace suit while it smooshes. What in that slimy Earthworm Jim? And blammo! He becomes a superpowered hero. He takes out that precious dog. Then that stupid worm goes onto the planet X. He even tries mucus spongy jumping.
And if that doesn't stop him, maybe the battle with Queen festering sweaty sulfur butt will. Earthworm Jim from Playmates. Brace yourself. It's Super Game Boy from Nintendo. Play your Game Boy games on the Super NES in living color. Even choose your own color combinations. Play all 350 Game Boy games. How does that strike you? Super Game Boy for the Super NES. Game Boy games in color, intense.
The markets are coming! Yes, and Mario is your only hope. Team up with him in the new Super Mario Land. Guide him on the Nintendo Game Boy. Challenge the mysteries and terrors of ancient Egypt. Battle all the horrors of the deep. Master lots of weird worlds to give Mario a happy ending and make your world a better place. New Super Mario Land and other exciting games for Game Boy. Nintendo. Now you're playing with power. Portable power.
Jim. Jam. Jam. Jam.
Alright, continuing on, we are doing X-Men Mutant Apocalypse. This is one of the Capcom licensed games, one of the first ones they did with the Marvel license. And they did a lot of good games with the Marvel license. Let's try the mission mode.
Yeah, Capcom made a lot of American licensed games, you know, which is interesting considering they're a Japanese company, but they did a lot of American stuff.
We'll start with Wolverine. Wow. Graphics are pretty sweet on this.
Yeah, this is not too bad. It's a hack and slash game.
Yeah, your standard superhero, like,
Capcom hack and slash games. They made some of the best ones, and you know, the Final Fight series was huge on the arcade and Super Nintendo scene. And
that Grenader's getting on my nerves.
The Super Nintendo console itself came out in 1990 in Japan, very late in the year, basically 91. It launched in the US in 91. And when it came out, it was definitely an upgrade for the Nintendo Entertainment System. It was definitely an upgrade from the NEC TurboGrafx system, TurboGrafx, right?
Yeah, TurboGrafx.
Yeah, which...
The Turbo Duo was the CD.
Which we, at some point, need to get a hold of one of those. And also the Genesis. Now, the Super Nintendo competed against those systems, but as time went on, the CD-ROM systems started to crop up and really pushed past the Super Nintendo and tried to compete with it to a degree. And a lot went on with Nintendo as far as a CD add-on. And we talked more about the CD add-on that failed to come to light for the Super Nintendo during the PlayStation Console Wars of the Past video.
God damn it.
Because that's what the Super NES CD became, was the PlayStation. And Ray is not appreciating the climbing aspect of this game.
It's not the climbing aspect, it's the cheat.
it's Capcom.
Yeah,
they definitely
yeah.
don't make it easy for you.
Capcom likes to kick you in the balls on the way out. We'll try Gambit and see how he fares. Let me guess. This is a different area?
Yeah, they have different specific levels for each character.
Oh, okay.
That's why with the Wolverine, when you were climbing up, you know, with your claws and everything.
Yeah, that wouldn't make much sense with Gambit.
This has good animation and some nice-looking character models.
Yeah, they look like the cartoon.
For the time this came out, I think this falls into the category of being one of the early games that were a lot of female fan service, I think, to all the young kids with Psylocke and her busty figure.
Yeah.
I
mean, I wasn't thinking about that when I was 10, but it took me a couple of years.
But for the 13-year-olds...
The 13-year-olds loved it.
Now, this is, of course, using a lot of the characters from the animated series and the comic series that went with that.
Yeah,
so,
they look a lot like the animated characters.
Yeah.
They did a really good job. As you can see with, like, how they did with the... Like, it actually looks hand-drawn by a Marvel artist.
Yeah, they really do have great character models in this.
And that's something that the SNES should be remembered for, is it had some of the best hand-drawn animation, and probably the last system to support hand-drawn animation as a mainstream console. Because after this, everything went rendered in 3D.
Yeah.
So this was one of the last vestiges of hand-drawn animation. This is
yeah,
tricky.
and also, you know, it was the last great 2D system, and before pretty much everything had to go 3D once the technology was feasible and the power was there. And for good or bad, you know, that's just the evolution of things.
Yeah.
Not that we don't still see side-scrolling games and things of that nature,
these
but
games still exist.
Yeah, they still exist, but it definitely shifted the way games are designed, and
Ninja Gaiden lasted fairly well, even into the Genesis era, which is basically this era. And it was a straight side scroller, and not to take away from the gameplay, anything unique this game has, which I don't even know what all, but it's very similar to Ninja Gaiden on the Genesis. I mean, the colors and the size of your character. They love to make characters bigger all of a sudden, I think, around this time.
Yeah, the NES, you noticed there was more background than, like, character, but in the Super Nintendo and Genesis era, your character took up about a third of the screen.
Yeah, everything got bigger, and as we were discussing earlier,
especially bosses.
Yeah, the bosses were gigantic, and they had the ability to have a lot larger scale. And we're not going to look at any RPGs here in this collection, but if you want to see more games that we've taken a specific look at more of our Ray's Retro reviews. But a lot of these RPGs of the time were just massive. Nothing else could compete with the scale of the Super Nintendo games, and it was great. You know, things like The Legend of Zelda, things like Final Fantasy, things like what else?
Chrono Trigger.
Chrono Trigger was massive.
Yeah. Secret of Evermore, Earthbound.
And pretty much anything Square did was just massive and epic.
Super Mario RPG.
Again, Square.
Yeah. In collaboration with Nintendo.
It was a Square game, though. I mean, the design, you know...
Yeah, they took basically a straight Final Fantasy design of it.
And that game was massive. It was really a big and really exciting game. And
Breath of Fire 2 was actually from Capcom, so...
Yeah.
They were other companies besides Square making a good RPG.
Oh, absolutely. There were dozens that came out in Japan that we never saw. We all know Square, but that's because they made the best ones, but there are tons and tons of Japanese RPGs that never made it to the US that are, you know, at least decent.
That's why I like NIS and Atlas so much. I mean, they might not be going back as far as to this era, but it's kind of nice to bring over a lot of the Japanese RPGs.
Well, they're now doing it. There's the demand is definitely there, and as more people play those types of games, they're bringing more and more of them to America.
Gambit was my favorite.
I did Gambit.
Did? Oh.
Yeah, I'm noticing, every single one has a different level. So you get 2 lives per character, and each character has a different level. So there's actually 5 different paths, and you have 2 lives with each character. So they really kept you with this game for a while. And if you failed, oh well, you still have 9 more lives to go. So
like a cat.
It's kind of cool. They give you all those extra options, but I think we've seen pretty much all there is to see on this one. So I'm going to move on to a different game here. Alright, continuing on. This one's from Time Warner Interactive.
Who fortunately went out of video game design because they made a lot of crappy games.
Yeah, this one was a port of the Midway game Primal Rage. And here we go. You are a dinosaur. The world has been destroyed and the dinosaurs have re-risen.
Or an ape man. You can also be an ape.
You can be an ape, yeah. And the apes fart. I'm just going to take the red dinosaur. And each one has a... It's basically Mortal Kombat with dinosaurs.
Yeah, this is during the phase of...
everything must be a fighting game.
Yeah, really. Street Fighter was really successful. Mortal Kombat did it just as well. And then every other developer decided that they should also make a fighting game. Because not so much that they could do it better, but that it could be done. And this is, you know, kind of what you end up with. A lot of them aren't bad, but they're not really amazing.
There's nothing really that stands out.
Yeah, you know,
well, if anything is different and interesting about this one is you can eat the little people and get a little bit of health.
Yeah.
That's pretty sweet. You know, it has a little kind of a comical overtone, as you were saying, that the apes will fart a cloud of gas that'll damage their opponent and things like that.
And I believe, it may not be in this version, but I know in the arcade version that the one monkey would pee on you.
Yeah,
so,
I'm guessing they probably
they probably
took that out
cut
of this
that out
one.
of the Super Nintendo version.
I'm thinking that they did. That's... Uh-oh.
Oh, man.
Armadon wins.
Nah. I did like this for a little while. I'm not a huge fighter fan, never was, but when I was little, I liked it a little bit because I was one of those young guys that loved dinosaurs, you know, went through that phase.
This thing is kicking my ass.
So for fans of dinosaurs, this is definitely worth checking out.
Fans of dinosaurs and fighters.
Yep. If you like both, I guess you can't go wrong.
Well, later, what kind of came out was Bloody Roar.
Yeah.
And that was kind of like a person that turned into kind of an animal form after you got maxed out.
Now this is Jeremy joining us now that was just speaking. We're having revolving video game expert guests during the Super NES era here.
Now, something else I think they might have taken out here is, because I've played the arcade port, or the arcade version of this, and I haven't really played much of the Super Nintendo version. So, I think they cut out the storyline of you take over the Earth. Like, it had a little map in the arcade version. But I haven't seen any indicators, because every time you defeat an opponent in the arcade version, you take over a part of the map.
Yeah, it could be.
It might have been just hardware issues, too.
Yeah, I mean, and limitations you know, they obviously had to downgrade this to bring it home because the arcade version
Looks a lot crisper.
Yeah, it was pretty stunning for the time. It really it had a lot of cool effects, like the fart gas thing. Actually, was a pretty cool looking cloud, and I remember that distinctly. And you know, the blood splatters and everything. So maybe they
well,
just
another thing in the arcade
nerfed
version,
it all.
yeah, it looks really nerfed. Because oh, there it is.
There it is.
Okay, so you have to defeat 2.
Ooh, you got the hollows.
Okay, so that part is in the game. Now, one thing I did notice is in the arcade version, the dinosaurs actually look like they were stop-motion puppets.
Yeah, I remember that. Like they were, it was almost as if they were claymation dolls that were filmed.
Yeah, exactly. And here they look kind of rendered, somewhat.
Yeah, they look weird. They don't blend in with the background real well. So, definitely, if you want to check out the best version of this, get the arcade cabinet, if you can find one.
Well, you could also find it on the Midway Arcade Treasures 2 disc. That might be the best way to play it cheaply. I think it was available on all systems.
And I'm sure those Primal Rage cabinets are probably pretty tough and expensive to find by now.
And it goes on and on, you know, ad nauseum. Once you complete the world, you're the world conqueror.
Yeah. Well, what else can we say about the Super Nintendo? Now, I know one thing we haven't talked about is the internet capabilities of the Super Nintendo, which did not come to America, but in Japan, you could go on the BS Satellivision or Satellaview service, and it was basically an add-on that connected to the bottom of your Super Nintendo into the little expansion slot on the bottom, and it would allow you to download some games that were never available, such as a 16-bit version of the original Legend of Zelda, Mario Excite Bike, and some other interesting Nintendo titles that never came to America and were never released in cartridge form, and could only be acquired through the service.
What we did get, however, were some third-party online capabilities with it. The X-Band service that existed during that time, you could get online and actually play some of your friends over your dial-up internet connection.
Such as this game. This would be a great game to play on the X-Band. And the X-Band was really interesting because it was from another company, and they released it on both the Super Nintendo and the Sega Genesis. And yeah, you plugged your phone line into it and dialed into your friend, basically a direct connection, and it would, I'm not sure exactly how it worked, but you know, essentially,
I think it basically worked up like dial-up internet.
Yeah, well, I mean the communications between the Super Nintendos.
Oh, yeah, I have no idea how that worked.
You know, it must have fooled the system into thinking one of the players was the second player or something.
Yeah,
and
yeah, if anybody knows, just put it in the comments.
Yeah, let us know. We are very curious about this, and unfortunately we weren't into, you know, we couldn't do that kind of gaming at our residences at that time.
I never had one.
Yeah.
I don't think a whole lot of people did have them, but it put it out there, and it was, you know, out there.
It was available.
It was available, and it, you know, it was, I think, decently affordable.
Yeah.
I think it was the phone bills that killed everybody.
Yeah, I would imagine. Hey, you know, long distance calls definitely wouldn't be very cool. Oh, look at him talking smack.
He
was like, "Yeah,
him.
bitch."
I've almost conquered the world.
Ray is taking over the world here.
Since I changed my character, oh, I'm gonna lose to this thing.
As we're playing in Stonehenge, apparently that's what it's about. Dinosaurs. Finally,
Stonehenge was a monster arena.
Finally, yes, finally they figured it out. It was where dinosaurs battled.
That makes sense.
Makes sense.
Yeah.
It's no more
dinosaurs that can teleport.
It's as plausible as anything else I've heard about Stonehenge. So
that's the Loch Ness monster, I guess.
Oh yeah.
It doesn't remind me of
I
any
like their
dinosaur.
little, I like their little celebrations. I think that's kind of
That's right.
fun. Like just seeing a dinosaur like talking smack, like, oh yeah, I got it.
This could have been one of those games that they could have turned into a product line.
Hey, I mean, it's okay.
It looks like they could
compared
make dinosaur toys out of them.
Compared to some of the fighting games on the market, this definitely is better. Definitely a lot better than most of the ones out there. If you want to play some real garbage, try World Fighters, which was so bad that Capcom filed a lawsuit for stealing their game design. And it literally, I remember playing it and was like, this is Street Fighter. They even took basically all the character animations and just altered them a little bit. You know, pretty much the same moves, same, like the same backgrounds. It was blatant. And I believe that Capcom won that lawsuit, but I'm not sure. Are you continuing, Ray, or are you done?
I'm done.
All
We're
right.
moving on.
You can record your initials for posterity.
Of course.
Now everyone knows.
Yeah, Ray was playing that. Alright, continuing on here, we're now going to do one of the better licensed games from Konami.
We get the Konami sound. We got the Capcom noise earlier. There's the Konami sound. This brought the era of the sounds associated with the company. We also got the EA Sports.
Little audio branding.
And as far as branding crap into your head, Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, the toys that you're supposed to love and buy all the accessories, items, and watch the cartoon for, that you don't have money even though you're 7 years old, but you have spending power. And
I've never forgotten the tune or the, you know, how the song goes.
It's stuck in our brains.
I'll have Alzheimer, you know, when I'm older, and I'll still remember that.
We all will. It's in there. And
Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles.
So we get a little bit of cleavage there. That's nice.
Turtle power.
Yeah.
Now we see the evil Shredder, who's always up to no good. He's evil, in case you don't know the backstory on the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. And if we're going to talk about the Turtles, if you're any sort of fan of this series, check out the Japanese anime of Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, because it's the craziest thing you've ever seen. And basically they transform into robots, grow wings, and kick ass. And they have a fairy friend, because of course if it's an anime you have to have a fairy friend somewhere, don't you?
Even Link has one.
Right. So
I mean, he's more of a literal fairy.
now this is based off of the arcade game, what we're playing here. This is the, I believe, third... well, it's the third Konami arcade... arcade game based on this license. And the third, or the fourth home game, I guess.
Now, there were games that came out as far back as the original 8-bit NES, which, if anybody remembers, the first one wasn't based off the arcade game, which disappointed a lot of people initially, because the arcade game came out right before that.
Yeah.
And so everybody assumed it was going to be the arcade game,
and
but it was totally 100% different.
Yeah, it was definitely bad.
Horrible.
and so then the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles 2 for the Nintendo Entertainment System,
which they labeled the arcade game.
The arcade game was the tagline because it was the original arcade game. So then the third one came out, I believe, or the second arcade game was the third one.
Now, was that Manhattan Project?
Yes. And then the fourth one is this, Turtles in Time, which was actually the third arcade one, if you followed that. And then we got to play it, but we have the Hyperstone heist for Genesis as well, and I'm not sure where that falls in.
Actually, I think that was
I'm not sure if
the
it was
initial story was like this one.
I'm not sure if it was an original one or a compilation or whatever. We'll get back to you on that.
And also, everybody got some enjoyment when on the original NES when they brought out the arcade version, but unfortunately it just couldn't meet up to the standards. And
you should get that pizza.
It really wasn't until 16-bit era came out that they could really do the arcade versions justice.
Yeah, this
So
one
these
looked a
were
lot
really
like the
popular.
arcade one.
And you know what also made this game super badass, rad, cool, and tubular?
Awesome.
And also awesome is that it was made by Konami, so it supported the Konami code.
No
Speaking
way.
of which, where do I input that?
It's the Konami code. You put it in at the title intro screen. And that was actually thrown in, if we're going to talk about the Konami code, because it's definitely part of video game lore. And it was put in Galaga as a way for the designer to test the game out and test the different features and just have access to all the weapons and have a lot of lives to be able to play through it, jump to a stage he needed. And it was left in there. And it got out to the people, and so Konami...
You sure it was Galaga? Because that was Namco, I believe. Just checking. Might have been Gradius, you're thinking.
Yeah, that's what it was, Gradius. I'm sorry. I knew it was a G, shooter game with a G.
Yeah.
Yes, Gradius. And so that was the first game to support it. And many titles afterwards would from Konami. The most popular being Contra, because the game was so damn hard.
You needed all 30 lives.
You needed those 30 lives, and so the Ninja Turtles arcade games also supported it.
I'll have to remember that next
So
time we play this.
So there's the Konami code.
Which is
up, up, down, down, LR, LR, BA, start. Select start if you're playing two players, so you can flip over to the second player. And that's also a secret code on shop.newgengamers.com. If you purchase something through Google Checkout from us and enter that code, you will get 5% off your purchase.
That's a cool way to do it. Just enter the Konami code and
enter the
unlock stuff at New Gen Gamers.
Absolutely, we support the Konami code.
That's paying
we're
a
keeping
little
it alive.
homage to a classic.
Absolutely, we're keeping it alive. I don't know that Konami still uses it in anything. I mean, it'd be just kind of as a novelty thing, but it was always just one of those things in video game lore. We all know it. We can all think of it. Even if you don't know the code, most people know of the Konami code. So. Look at these guys tearing it up. They are.
This is an action-packed game.
It is. This is one of the.
I love these Turtles games.
Konami had a long series of these beat 'em up arcade games, and they were fun.
The enemies. The Simpsons too.
Yeah, the Simpsons one in the arcade was a lot of fun.
They did a really.
They never brought that one home. They should have.
Well, they did a really good job, and they didn't take away too much from the original, so it still held all the core parts that made it so good.
If you're a fan of the series, you just have fun with this because now you're getting to, of course, be the Turtles and attack the enemies the Turtles are opposed to, and.
So these games on this bit era would be great for. The virtual consoles, I don't know how many are out, if any yet.
Ray?
Also, because of the new rise in popularity of the Turtles with the movie and the new series.
The original arcade games on Xbox Live Arcade.
Okay. Cool.
So Teenage Mutant. Okay. Oh, and yeah, that's right. That's the port of the arcade game, not the.
Yeah, that was
home
the actual.
version.
That was the actual arcade game.
Yeah.
That's cool.
So who knows? Maybe they could do the Simpsons ones down the road. I think
that's
kind of
what I was
bring that
hoping.
home. Yeah. I'm not sure what other ones they did as far as licensed ones.
I think they did an X-Men one as well.
I mean, that's something to keep in mind if anybody out there has kids that seen it for the first time, or they just want to pass their childhood love on to their kids. Or...
Yeah, you can still buy and play these games.
Oh wow! It's the Robo Turtle.
Yeah.
Metalhead.
I used to have that action figure.
I thought he was kind of stupid. He reminds me of the little dorky junk bot. Like, come on. I always wanted super cool stuff. Like.
I did have that action figure too. I had all of them.
This cave freaks.
We all did. We're man-children. This is what we did as children, and we're still friggin' discussing it. The turtles are awesome, dude.
Oh, and just a note.
Who's your favorite, guys?
I was Michelangelo.
I'm playing my favorite.
I'm playing my favorite.
Yeah, I was a Raphael guy.
Yeah, Raphael was the best.
Oh, Michelangelo, come on. You gotta have some fun.
He was cool.
Oh, you get this alien friggin' looking thing. Yeah, that thing's nasty.
That's kind of blatant.
It is pretty blatant. It looks, it looks pretty, very much similar to the alien from Alien.
Maybe they have the rights to that.
I don't know.
Konami?
Somebody did at that time, but.
'Cause I think they made. Don't quote me on this, but.
Oh, you're quoted.
Oh, I'm quoted. Okay. I think they made the home versions of the Alien games. But I'm not sure on that. I'll have to check my
I don't know about
source.
that.
I'll definitely have to check my source. It was either them or Acclaim. Because mostly those two had the, most of the licenses. Capcom mostly stuck to the Disney and Marvel stuff.
Whoa.
The music might not have been, like, the best, but I'll tell you what, they took the catchiness of it.
You know,
and did it pretty well.
Yeah, they. You want to? You know, actually, this is very pertinent to us, Jeremy.
Yeah, because.
If anyone who's heard the New Gen Gamers podcast, which I highly recommend you listen to, well, we're gonna plug our crap here. We have a remixed version of this theme song as our theme song. So hopefully Konami will not sue us.
Yeah,
but,
thanks to Marcellus Wentz.
Yes.
And ocremix.org.
Yes, that fellow remixed it and gave us permission to use his remix as our theme song. And it's super rad. I hated that guy. Yeah, he was a douche. He really was. But see, what I love about this game, they really took the licensing for this one to the next level, because I remember playing with that guy's ship.
Yeah, I might have had it.
And, you know, that's all this was a goddamn commercial to buy toys. But, you know,
you'll have this in a capitalist society.
You'll have this, and
I haven't lost a life.
It made us happy, so hey, why not?
Yeah, you rock, man.
I told you, I love Ninja Turtles.
Cowabunga, he says. Ooh,
was it the Technodrome?
That was the Technodrome. Let's kick some shell, guys.
Am I at the end already? Seriously?
You haven't even gone through time yet.
Yeah,
oh, that's right.
True.
Yeah, you go here.
I was thinking the original.
That's right. That did make this kind of an interesting game, because then you go through the time period levels.
Was this around the same time that Ninja Turtles 3 came out?
I highly imagine. So it was
when
probably
they
loosely.
jumped into time?
Yeah, it's probably loosely based on the movie.
Even though they're using the cartoon characters.
It's all good.
It
all ties in.
Did you guys watch the new animated movie?
No, actually.
It's really good. I was going to see it with some friends and was afraid it wouldn't be good, but I liked it.
I'm getting tired of people cashing in on our childhood memories.
Yeah.
Because they were bought and sold to begin with, and now they have to do it again when we're older, and that is really bugging me. But here we are talking about it, so.
I don't know. I like Transformers. Transformers was a pretty cool movie.
Well, I didn't like the commercialization of it, and after that first run, like
that opened the floodgates. We're gonna see a ton of these in the coming years.
I think as long as they're
G.I. Joe the movie, I'm waiting.
If they're
it's
well done
right around
and
the
they
corner.
actually show homage to the source material, I'm all right with it.
But it usually is crap. Like, this is crap. This was based off a guy's comic that basically they just hoard out. I mean.
Oh wow, you know the history of it.
Yeah, Mirage Studios.
It was
a black and white independent comic.
Yep.
And the comic was cool. The original comic was really gritty, and it's pretty neat. If anyone's interested, check it out.
It was pretty new as far as what genre would be put in. That it did have a couple people come out to try to kind of compete. There was something about alien kangaroos. Yeah.
I missed that part.
It was totally different.
Oh,
you
okay.
know, like came out just a little after, like somebody trying to cash in and compete against them.
Oh, against the Ninja Turtles. Okay.
Yeah.
But well, yeah. So they took this guy's comic and
because there's the ones from the movies.
Yeah. This is definitely tied into the movies and the merchandising. But you know, that's what happened to this guy's comic. You know, it was taken by Mirage Studios, or Mirage Studios was founded around it. I'm not sure which, and just sold it all out as different properties. But it's highly entertaining if you're 8 to 10 years old, and even if you're a 26-year-old man-child, it's still good times.
Got one.
You never want to get shell-shocked.
Look, he's a puppy.
Yeah, they were animals that were mutated.
They had ooze poured on them to be
I
mutated.
remember Secret of the Ooze.
Oh yes.
So, what else is there to say?
I think we said
covered
more than you could
everything.
possibly say.
When you decide to step up to this kind of power, this kind of challenge, this kind of flying, crashing feeling, when you decide to get serious, there's only one place to come: the games of Super Nintendo. No one else creates this kind of experience, because no one else creates these kinds of games. Now you're playing with power, superpower.
Primal Ray. Bigger. Better. Faster. Rage. Rage.
Holy cow, it's Turtles in Time! The cool arcade game for Super NES. Now with tasty Turtle Duels. And psych up your Sega Genesis with the Hyper Stone Heist and all new 3D Turtle Thrash. So remember, this is Cowabingo. But the Turtles for Super NES and Sega Genesis are...
Cowabunga, dude.
The Turtles for Sega Genesis. In store...
The beast is back. On the system that keeps pounding out the hits. Super NES. Donkey Kong Country 2, Diddy's Conquest. It's even tougher than the original.
Nintendo Entertainment System could make possible. Across endless land and water, you search. Deep into a parallel world, where light becomes dark, you search. And just when you think your search has ended, you find it's just begun. The new Legend of Zelda, A Link to the...
Oh, the magic fingers.
I have the touch.
So here is Nintendo's epic Diddy Kong's Quest.
Otherwise known as Donkey Kong Country 2.
Now, Donkey Kong Country 2 and, well, Donkey Kong Country came to be from two fellows named Chris and Tim Stamper, who were brothers, as the name implies. They started a video game company called Rare during the 80s, and they made some semi-successful titles, including Battletoads. Solar Jetman was theirs, correct?
I believe so.
And some other titles. None of them had huge commercial success. And in the mid-90s, they started learning about the possibilities of computer-generated images being used in video games and computer modeling characters to be used in video games. And they were very interested in this technology. They made a partnership with Nintendo to use this technology to create video games. So Nintendo bought a 25% stake in Rare. So the company came together with a partnership with Silicon Graphics Incorporated to use their workstations to develop these amazing games at the time. So what they did was they created CGI models and characters the way that we see in pretty much any other 3D game today, but it's not actually a 3D game. They just created the characters, created the background using CGI imaging, and then basically just layered it like a traditional video game and just motion captured the animation sets and everything just the way you would a normal sprite. And it was revolutionary. No one had seen graphics on a home system like that before. And I remember seeing the wireframes and just, I'd never heard of that technology before that they could do that. And it was just amazing. I mean, I was very young at the time, so...
Well, something that I thought was really interesting was the fact that when Donkey Kong Country originally came out, they marketed it as basically a 32X killer against Sega, who would come out with numerous add-ons at that point. And the fact that their game, just running on the console, could do better graphics than their Sega system could do with add-ons kind of really solidified the race for them.
And even more on top of that was the fact that it was fun.
Yeah, it was.
That makes a huge difference.
It's a really good game.
So what happened was Rare, with this great game design concept, teamed up with Nintendo. Nintendo said, well, you know, we want to try this new type of graphic styling, but let's use an existing license. Let's take something that we haven't used for years and maybe reinvent it. Maybe Donkey Kong?
Why not?
Why not? We hadn't seen much of Donkey Kong beyond the Super Game Boy Donkey Kong game that we were discussing earlier. And so they pulled Donkey Kong out of the closet and gave him a little buddy with a red cap. And that was not meant to be the way it sounded, but whatever. And
it's a bit of an inside joke.
And so there you go. And
Donkey Kong's out of the closet now.
Donkey Kong came out of the closet, and basically they just made a platforming game. You know, they made a really good platforming game with a lot of fun secrets in the level, great design, fun enemies, fun characters, and just all around a great time. And this is the sequel to that, and there really isn't anything significantly majorly different that we can talk about. You know, there's some aesthetic things.
Yeah.
You've got the girl character. Donkey Kong is not in this one.
He has been captured.
He's been captured, of course. So now Diddy has to save him and brings along his good friend Dixie Kong, who can whip her hair around and fly through the air.
Dixie was his sister. I was never sure on that. I never got into the story.
I believe that's Dixie.
Yeah. I believe it's his sister, isn't it?
I'm not sure exactly how that works in the Kong family, and they really extended the Donkey Kong franchise with this too, because before Donkey Kong was just Donkey Kong, and now all of a sudden you had these other side characters. They eventually made a cartoon series out of it, made some fiction books about it.
Some
Lots of tie-ins and merchandising, follow-up games on the Nintendo 64 from Rare.
Donkey Kong 64 was pretty good.
Yeah, and they also had Donkey Kong Country 3 for the Super NES. So they really hoard this thing out after it took off, but it was really a gamble.
And Donkey Kong Country 3 was actually one of the last games put out on the Super Nintendo.
Yeah.
It came out late 96, maybe early 97?
It came out late. And they also took these to the Game Boy, which was interesting because they put them on the original Game Boy hardware and still kept the 3D modeling. And it was really impressive looking. Like some of the best original Game Boy games graphically were the Donkey Kong. I'm not sure if they were. I think they were Donkey Kong Land.
Yeah, Donkey Kong Land.
And they were
great.
amazing. So
oh crap.
They really pushed the hardware, and that's what Rare did. They really pushed the hardware, and the Stampers did a great job with that company.
I'm kind of liking this game. It's a little bit better than the first one.
Yeah, it's refined.
I may have to actually download this. So I was thinking about it on the Virtual Console. So I got some points.
Ray always has some points.
Well, yeah.
Ray lives in debt to Nintendo. They actually pay him to...
They should.
Ray's a slave is actually what it comes down to. He's paying them to talk about his stuff, but that's what we're here for. So, what else do we want to talk about? We were talking right before we started this game about the competition for having the better games. The competition between the Sega Genesis and the Super Nintendo was intense, and we hadn't seen that since probably the Intellivision, ColecoVision, Atari war, and it was direct head to head. It got dirty.
It was one of the most heated races of pretty much the entire history of the industry.
And another huge factor that will definitely lead into our next generation is the fact that Sega got some of the third-party stuff onto the system early on, much against Nintendo's will, and because Nintendo wanted everything that was on a Nintendo system to be exclusive on a Nintendo system. And of course, many companies saw the opportunity to sell a game across multiple systems to, hedge your bets. Hey, if there's 20 million of one system and 40 million of all systems, I can sell a lot more on a user base of 40 million than 20 million.
Exactly.
So
business.
So companies kept pushing until finally they got around Nintendo legally, and just by saying screw you, we're gonna do it. And so that's when the war really heated up, because then you saw the exclusives, then you saw the games that were on both systems that you could look at comparatively, and really gave Nintendo a run for their money and forced them to try and innovate. Unfortunately, what they tried to do was prepare for a console war against Sega for the next generation, but Sega was not going to be there for very long.
Sega wasn't their main competitor.
Yeah, Sega made too many missteps around this time that they really weren't competition, and Nintendo would face a new competitor.
One of the main missteps that Sega made was a lack of consumer confidence after all the add-on debacle.
Yeah, and again, as we talked about, the Super Nintendo had legs right within the cartridges they had. They had them built so that they could have hardware built right onto the chip, which these ones do, the Super FX games do. that allowed them to be larger and grander scale than was originally intended for the Super Nintendo system. And the Sega went about doing that by releasing several $100 peripherals that didn't have much support. Yeah, it did not pan out for them, and essentially killed the company on the hardware end.
Yeah,
too many of them, and they didn't work well.
Yeah.
Together.
Which we'll take a look at the Sega debacle as
we cover the Genesis and CD32X Tower of Terror.
Welcome everybody to another Console Wars of the Past here. We are doing the Legend of Zelda: A Link to the Past. This has to be the greatest game on the Super Nintendo.
Yeah, I'd say so. There's not really many other games up in the same echelon as this game.
I mean, I think this is the perfect way to close out our Super Nintendo look here. Let's go with Guido because he's about the middle of the game. Let's start in the mountain cave, I believe. Alright.
Now this came out very early into the Super Nintendo's lifespan and was huge for Nintendo, following up Super Mario World and the release of the system. To have a game this big was just amazing. And as Ray said, even throughout the rest of the 16-bit era, nothing could really compete with the scope of this game.
Yeah, very few games got even close. I think one of them, the Final Fantasy games, but those were so epic anyways that, we're expecting that. But this was like a mainstream title.
Yeah, maybe the Squaresoft collection, everything they had during the 16-bit era versus this, because it's really that kind of scale. And not to put those games down in any way, it's just this thing did everything right. All the levels are fun, all the puzzles are fun and challenging, the enemies are challenging. Like here you've got boulders coming down after you, a lot of different things going on.
Not to mention the classic Zelda music. I love this music.
Yeah, great themes throughout the game.
Some people hear this stuff in their head.
I know I do.
And the major thing about this was it continued Nintendo's Zelda series, in the best way possible. Just like a full upgrade of the original game. Because we all know that Zelda 2 kind of took it in another direction.
Yeah, Zelda 2 was a whole different kind of thing. And this kind of went back to the roots of the series. And plays a lot like the first one with your large overworld and, everything happening essentially in real time throughout the world.
Well, see, there you go, everybody. This is the Dark World. There was a switch between Light and Dark World in this game, which made it so much bigger.
Yeah, it essentially doubled the overworld size. Bring up the map real quick. So here we see the scale of the map. This is the Dark World map. If you look at it when you're in the Light World, everything's still in the same place, but they're all different items, buildings, locations, and different obstacles around them. So to traverse the two different worlds, you have to flip back and forth, go into the Dark World, unlock something, like stand right in this one spot and go back to the Light World. This was one of the earlier Light World, Dark World puzzles that you'd encounter in the game.
Let me make sure I have... There we go.
So if you hopped across here and came back in the Light World, you could go up top there, which you didn't have access to previously.
Which gives you access to this castle.
So let's look at a dungeon here real quick.
This was one of the more challenging ones.
He's already beaten this one, but this shows you one of the more interesting puzzles that came along with this game, which is these crystal ball things with the switches. And then these fun characters.
I would love to bounce you off the stage.
Yeah, you bounce back off of them when you hit them, and they also go flying. So you can try and knock them in the hole, but they can also knock you in the hole.
I'll wait for him. Yeah. Oof, he almost sent me back. But the dungeons were so deep in this game, and they put so many in it, that it expanded the experience. There hasn't been a Zelda game to date that has had as many dungeons as Link to the Past.
Yeah, this game took a long time to get through.
What the hell did I do that for?
And you see here, one of the puzzles, depending which way you have that aligned and which way you have the other blocks turned, allows you access.
Yeah, so you have to really know your way around this game, or it's a lot of trial and error.
And that was the wrong one again.
Yeah. Give me a break, it's been a while. So, with this game, Nintendo pretty much put, their best foot forward with the Super Nintendo. And really gave their fans something to look forward to. I remember seeing this in, cereal boxes. There was, tips for this game. They really pushed the advertising with this one.
Yeah, it led the charge for the Super Nintendo's early life.
And just the depth of it just will pull you in. It's still it's one of those that still has legs today. You pick up this game today, it's still going to be as fun as it was 20 years ago.
Yeah, trying to get through all the areas and finding all the secrets, all the hidden areas. It's massive. Now, of course, this dungeon's already been beaten.
Yeah.
But before, you would have to get a block or open that chest up.
Yeah, there's still a lot of the secrets have already been revealed in this one, but the crystal we're looking for is actually further away, but this was the closest dungeon.
Well, go ahead and head back out of here, and we'll check out the overworld some more.
But this was just a good little, give you an idea of what the dungeons in this game were actually like.
Yeah, they're multi-floored. Bring up your map for the dungeon.
Oh yeah, the dungeon maps. There's just so many. You have one for each floor, what's there, what's been explored.
In the original Zelda, you would have some dungeons, but they weren't multi-leveled. Zelda 2 added the multi-leveled dungeons, and with this game they took it to the next level, and just, some of the later dungeons had so many floors, and you would have to, do so many sequences to get everything open properly, and find all the right items. Just a lot of backtracking through the levels again, scratching your head, figuring out which thing you need to open up the door. Yeah.
I'm gonna avoid those rocks. They're rough. Oh, can't warp back that way. But he can refill my health. Now, what else do you think we have to say about the Super NES?
Load up, bring up your inventory screen. Show off some of the different items. As you go through the dungeons, you collect weapons and tools. Not all of them come from dungeons. Some come from side quests, such as this net. And you just get different interesting abilities with each item. The net would allow you to catch fairies, which then you could put in a bottle to fill your health later. You could catch bees, which could then be used.
There's a lamp.
You've got a lamp, which could light torches. You've got your bow and arrow, which can kill enemies and solve certain puzzles. Boomerang, which could collect items from far away and is a Zelda standard. You always have to get your bow and arrow and boomerang. And of course the bombs, which open many passages and can kill enemies. And
here's your magic attacks.
Yeah, you got some super special attacks that would just vaporize everything on the screen.
We have an ice rod.
And this is just a small collection. So, as you can see, you just would progress through and get so many items. At the bottom there you have your Zora flipper so that you could swim.
You also have your gloves so you can throw stuff.
Lift
pick
heavy
up your
rocks.
larger items. You have your speed boots, which allow you to charge through harder to get through obstacles.
So each time you equip a new item, it would allow you access to something you couldn't get previously. And that's how a lot of the advancement in the game goes, is pick up the required item and then continue on into the next area using whatever ability you've gained.
Yeah, a lot of this game was, find what you need and continue on.
And that's what keeps you coming back, because you'll see something and know that you can get it later, and you'll play through for, another couple hours, finally find that item, and then, you want to go back and see what's in that box or what's in that hidden passageway that you couldn't get to before.
And then it gets to the point where you're constantly exploring and you're constantly looking for more, and they even leave hearts or heart pieces around the world, so you continually are looking for that just to give your guy the full health.
The game's all about exploration. With these Legend of Zelda games, there's no way to just run through them. You've got to explore every nook and cranny and crevice and try every possible thing you can think of to get through them, and that's what's always kept players coming back and always kept the series fresh and exciting, because even when it is the same formula, they continue to innovate the puzzles, because though they've kept the same mold for the games, it always feels fresh. Even looking at something like the new DS iterations, the 1DS iteration, Phantom Hourglass, it brought whole new things to the table, but it retained the original gameplay that basically you're playing right here.
Yeah, it basically just gave you another new twist, which is what Zelda's always been about. New twists.
There's always a new twist with each new piece of hardware. So with the Super Nintendo, they were able to do these... I don't think you're going to get up there. They were able to do things like have this lamp where you have light areas and dark areas, and they used the lighting in a lot of different things in the game, and that was something that wasn't possible on the Nintendo Entertainment System. But now with the Super Nintendo, they could have the bonus layered effects that they just couldn't have before.
Yeah, with the Super Nintendo, there was such a large change in hardware that, you could tell a huge difference between, everything that you were seeing. When you look at this compared to the original Legend of Zelda, it blows it away.
Yeah, the Super Nintendo was able to do some transparencies and multi-layering that just wasn't seen previously, and this game used all the effects to their fullest. Like, go back to the map for a second. This is using the Mode 7 graphics, and so you can see it's just an image, but you can zoom in and out. So there you get the full screen view, and then if you zoom in, you get a closer view, and that's using the Mode 7, scaling the image and skewing it and allowing you to scroll over it.
It almost looks like a 3D map.
Yeah, it's faking the image, which was what the Mode 7 essentially did, was fake 3D. So you see here, that was one way they used it in this game.
And not to mention the constant exploring.
the sound effects, they used all of the sound processing power, the epic tunes with the multi-layered orchestrated sounds. The Nintendo Entertainment System it wasn't blips and bleeps, but there weren't many variations in between that.
Ooh,
there's a heart container. So the sound on this game is really crisp. The sound effects are really crisp.
Yeah, right. How do I get over there? Oh, I know what I have to do.
No.
Can I? Let's see.
Drop down. You probably have to come back up on the other side.
I need
You
to
may
charge.
not have what you need yet. I don't recall. So this is what you have to figure out. You see that item over there, you know you should have that, you know you can get it, but how do you get over there?
Not like that, apparently. Not like that, apparently.
So here we see the multi-layered dungeons again. This isn't a full dungeon, this is just another little tunnel.
Cave.
Yeah, just a little cave to explore, and these are scattered all throughout the land. You know, so there's not only the massive amount of large dungeons, there's these little things that can take a while to figure out.
So there's constant puzzles everywhere, and there's mini quests, and just many different things for you to explore. And it gives you, you know, such depth that you could play this game for, oh, I don't know, years and still not find everything. Unless you're, you know, looking at a guide or something.
And there was a guide released along with this from Nintendo and Nintendo Power to help players along when it first came out. And it was a huge guide. You know, there was a lot of stuff in it to cover everything. It's such a big game.
Oh, now what? A lot of now what, too.
Yeah.
And as you can see, when you have full hearts, like I did for the half second there, you get your ranged attack with your sword. Oops. I'll just drop down here. See if we can get out of this area. I seem to be stuck here. I don't have my flute to fly away. Well, I think this is a pretty good look at this game. What do you think, Ron?
Yeah.
Think we've covered just about everything. So, we will say, as we're closing out the Super Nintendo here, that Nintendo definitely took it to the next level with the Super Nintendo and, you know, brought everything that they could bring to the table. And, you know, eventually won the console war. You know, it took down to the wire, but they eventually won. But the 16-bit era was more about competition than actual, you know, anyone dominating.
Yeah, there was a lot of different ideas out there, and this one worked for Nintendo, and it made them a lot of money, so I guess that's winning.
Yeah, if it came down to profit margin, Nintendo definitely won the console war.
Yeah.
Because Sega, unfortunately, just kept funneling the money into sometimes ill-fated projects.
Yeah, the Super Nintendo ended up being a very profitable company. Okay, we've explored this cave 18 times now. I don't think you're going to get through it. You're in the dark world, so you have to get through it somewhere else.
Yeah. Just kind of got stuck in a loop there. So, I would say, you know, remember your history or you're doomed to repeat it. But, you know, if you do things right, you're not gonna have any problems.
Although Nintendo would end up having problems down
Later
the road
on,
because
yes.
At the end of this generation, everyone abandoned them. All these third parties that we looked at tonight went in other directions, and the company themselves had trouble getting a lot of hits out besides their major franchises, so they did forget their history.
Yeah,
in the positive way.
Yeah, I guess it just was time. The industry changed, and if you don't change with the industry, you end up, you know, left behind. And they decided to go with Cartridge and got left behind. Was their main mistake that generation. So, hope you enjoyed. We're out.
Alrighty.
NewGenGamers.com.